day. It's going to be a really nice day outside. Just going to be hot and humid. Now, it could be worse. You know, I went back and looked at history a little bit, looking at the 90-degree streaks. Right now, we're at 12 days in a row of 90 degrees or higher. That will mark today. But we've seen 33 days of 90 degrees or higher in Charlotte before, back in 1993. And just last year, we had a stretch of 26 days rather, of 90 degrees or higher, which was fourth. So again, we've seen this before, but just not to this extreme. So something we'll continue to watch. But luckily, I think our 90-degree streak is going to come to an end this weekend. 74 degrees your temperature right now. You see the sun come up still a little bit from our Independence camera as well. Upper 60s, low to mid 70s this morning. 75 in Charlotte. We've got 74 in Rock Hill, 69 in Leggington, 70 in Hickory, 65 at Boone. Today's high temperatures in the low to mid 90s this afternoon, with those low to mid 80s in the mountains, upper 90s towards Rockingham and Sherrall. The humidity is coming down slightly. It's not gone, but it's coming down a little bit, and every little bit helps, especially during this time of year. It helps protect you a little bit from the heat and the humidity. Whenever we get a nice little drop, maybe you sweat just a little less than you sweated yesterday. Here's a look at radar this morning. Radar is dry. It will be dry through the day today. I've got mostly sunny skies, calm conditions. We'll see some fair weather cumulus clouds bubbling up. Every once in a while, they'll block out the sun for you, but we should be dry through the day, which will be nice, again, if you have any outdoor plans or anything like that. But again, it is staying hot for now, so coming up in just a bit, we're going to be talking about just how long this heat wave is going to last. We also are talking about the big-time cool down. Temperatures are dropping back into the 80s again. We'll let you know when exactly that happens and if that cool down will stick around with us, and if it will be brief. We'll talk about it in just a bit, Jason.
Please don't be brief. Please don't be brief. All right, Brandon, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Well, if we have any traffic issues, let's hope those are brief this morning. Right now, still kind of dark and early as we look at Independence Boulevard, inbound and outbound on the east side of the city. So waiting on that sunrise to give us a better glimpse of the Queen City skyline. Traffic, though, nice and early, still moving well this morning. Let's show you overall a couple of issues that are on the board, not causing major delays. We're going to show you the one way out west here coming up here in just a second. But a couple of things that we do want to highlight that might affect you this morning. If you're on 77 southbound, we've got a lane blocked. It's the 21, which is Sunset Road. That entrance ramp, we've got an accident there, so it might just slow you down if you're trying to hop on to I-77. Now let's go way out west. If you're headed on southbound 85, like heading out of town from Gastonia and you're trying to go towards Greenville or Spartanburg, South Carolina, maybe Atlanta, early this morning, a lot of commuters head that way on 85 away from Charlotte. We got a lane block this morning causing delays. This is prior to Bessemer City. So just be aware of that if you're trying to head there in the next 30 minutes. Hopefully they'll get that clear, but there are some backups this morning. Now, going the other direction, 85 northbound, if you're coming to town from Gaston County, look down below. Ugh, that doesn't look good at all. Now, again, no surprise. It's like this every morning around 6:30, 85 at Cox Road, trying to get from Gastonia to Belmont, almost 30 minutes this morning. It gets a little better the closer you get to Mecklenburg County. Up in Iredell County, coming out from Lake Norman, steady stream of traffic. Those headlights coming out of Iredell into Mecklenburg County. You can barely see the water off to the right. Another half hour when that sun pops up. It will be beautiful this morning. Closer to town, steady stream of traffic. 77 north and south near LaSalle Street, looking good. Again, if you're heading to the airport this morning, drive times to get there, you're looking good. Check with your app, your airline to make sure no delays, but 32 minutes or less. Another updated traffic coming up at the top of the hour. Julian?
All right, thank you, Jason. Midterm elections are still several months away, but President Trump is already weighing in on a handful of local races. That includes the South Carolina Republican primary for U.S. Senator and a potentially competitive House race over in western North Carolina. Chief Political Correspondent Andy Weber explains what impact the president could have.
As voters prepare to head to the polls across the Carolinas, President Trump is making his picks.
I think if the president lends his support and endorsement, that sends a cue or a signal to Republican base voters to say, this is the person that I'm throwing my support behind, and I want you to do the same.
In western North Carolina, State Rep Jennifer Balcom is the new Republican nominee for the 11th Congressional District, replacing incumbent Chuck Edwards, who dropped out following a U.S. House ethics investigation. Balcom will face Democrat Jamie Ager in November, and Balcom got the president's endorsement this week. Trump writing in a Truth Social post that she is a highly respected state rep, small business owner, civic leader, and dedicated to serving her community.
The question is, do folks in the middle who don't have a high opinion of the president? Is that something that backfires on them and they say, you know what, I'm not going to vote for the president or his party, I'm voting for the opposition?
I think she's great. It's really an honor of her brother, and she's really a very smart woman.
And in South Carolina, the president has endorsed Darlene Graham in the GOP runoff for a U.S. Senate seat. This week, he seems to be upping the ante, holding a rally for her on Friday in Myrtle Beach.
And we will make America great again.
Dr. Michael Bitzer with Catawba College says the move is crucial to get an advantage over longtime York County Congressman Ralph Norman.
My thinking is Donald Trump needs to come into South Carolina, make those kinds of appearances, bring that attention to her candidacy to be effective in the runoff.
Again, that was Andy Weber reporting. Early voting for the South Carolina Senate Republican primary runoff starts this morning and runs until Friday. Polls open at 8:30 and they'll be open until 5 p.m. each day. Voters must have a valid photo ID in order to cast a ballot.
A new poll from Elon University shows Democrats and Republicans in North Carolina may have more in common than they thought. The poll asked 800 North Carolinians about their political identity and which social group they align with. More than 3/4 of respondents answered working class. The answer was present across all party lines.
We're in a moment where most people are pointing out that economic issues are critical for their vote in November. We're seeing inflation and cost of living in particular showing up as the top issue both in North Carolina and around the country.
The survey also found where North Carolinians differ the most, MAGA was by far the most polarizing identity, followed by democratic socialism.
The Supreme Court could soon decide whether construction can move forward on President Trump's White House ballroom. The National Trust for Historic Preservation called the administration's emergency request astonishing in a filing Tuesday afternoon. The Supreme Court may decide by Friday if they will uphold a lower court decision that pauses construction on the $400 million project. The National Trust accuses the Trump administration of trying to obstruct the law by building without congressional approval. But the administration argues the ballroom is needed for national security reasons.
Tremendous military protection, drone protection. The building is drone proof. It's missile proof.
Democrats are also investigating the project. Last week, they sent a letter to the Nonpartisan Government Accountability Office asking for an audit reviewing the ballroom's costs, who's paying for it, and the approval process. The Trump administration insists the ballroom portion of the project requires no taxpayer dollars. The independent audit is due December 1st.
New details this morning on the death of actress Hayden Panettiere. The Greenville County coroner says first responders found her unresponsive inside her South Carolina apartment. When first responders arrived, they say they administered advanced cardiac life support measures, but they were unsuccessful. According to the incident report, Panettiere's ex-boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, and his brother, Zach Hickerson, were both at the scene. It also states that Brian showed police a bag containing medications that the actress was taking. The names of those medications and any comments associated with them were redacted from the report. The coroner's office completed an autopsy Monday. Officials say they didn't find any signs of physical trauma, but the cause and manner of death remain pending further investigation and additional tests. We have heard from many fans who say her death was shocking.
Definitely a sobering thought. I mean, that happens, to family members and friends, but then celebrities too, there's just like another person right down the street. It's crazy.
And prayers for her family, definitely. I mean, that's such a hard thing to go through, and we'll be thinking about them.
The actress appeared in her first TV role at just 4 years old. She's known for her roles in Heroes, Ice Princess, and Bring It On All or Nothing.
Alec Murdaugh's defense team is asking a judge to move his upcoming double murder retrial to Richland County. Attorneys say Columbia offers a large jury pool and a better chance of finding impartial jurors. They also argue the location would reduce costs by eliminating the need for many attorneys and witnesses to stay in hotels. A judge has already ordered the retrial moved out of Colleton County, but has not yet decided where the April 2027 trial will be held.
The NTSB says speeding, cannabis impairment, and limited driving experience likely caused a deadly crash on I-485 last year. 6 people died, including a teen driver and 5 family members in another vehicle. In a final report released Tuesday, officials said the teen driver, who was likely impaired by cannabis, quickly approached another car in the middle lane and swerved into the right lane, colliding with a van. The two vehicles then collided with a large truck that officials say was illegally parked for a non-emergency reason. The driver of the truck and one person in the van are the only survivors of that crash.
Well, as the preseason continues, the Panthers are changing up the scenery. The latest as they head south to Duval County for joint practice with the Jaguars. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Time is 6:44. Panthers legend is set to receive another honor after getting his gold jacket.
Meanwhile, the current Cardiac Cats are braving the heat down in Duval County as they get ready for their joint practices with the Jaguars.
Carolina Sports Live's Joey Ellis has those stories and more in your morning sports.
For the Carolina Panthers, Monday was the only practice, at least for this week, that us here in Charlotte could actually see this team. They went through a brief walkthrough on Tuesday before getting to Jacksonville later that day. And now later this morning, they're gearing up for a 9:30 a.m. joint practice with the Jacksonville Jaguars in Florida, with certainly tons of position battles that are still certainly yet to be decided. It'll be nice, though, for this team just to practice against somebody that's other than the ones that have been wearing the same crest as you. And for the team, it'll certainly be business as usual. But as we all know, these joint practices, they certainly show us that tempers can boil over rather easily.
Just what I've been seeing every day in practice here, the physicality to show up, our style of football, that's been the standard. The competition will elevate some, getting new fresh faces to go against, different schemes, different style of fronts, different style of offenses, those types of things. But just seeing our guys execute and play with our type of physicality.
Getting out there versus another live defense, and you haven't gone against them, you get to spend a little time studying them pre-practice and everything, but to be able to go out there and get those live reps is just as important as any of those preseason games.
All right, so as far as the storylines, here's what we're going to be watching for later this morning in Duval. First things first, the starting offense has to find some kind of rhythm after the poor showing that we saw on the road in Buffalo on Saturday. We also want to see if either Trevin Wallace or Claudin Sherrills can create separation in what's been a very even day-by-day position battle there at linebacker, too. And the interior offensive line has struggled a bit this preseason without Rob Hunt and then Damian Lewis seeing snaps at both guard positions. The depth behind them certainly has to improve. And this is also a chance today for players on the bubble to continue making a case for roster spots. And, of course, joint practice is always known for some scuffles. We'd like to see those kept at a minimum, though, with more of the focus on the task at hand. We've talked about the arrival of Darren Waller certainly extensively, but now really the two questions remain. Is he here to stay in Charlotte? And if so, is it at somebody else's expense? Well, Waller seems to be more than in shape than he was in Vegas and certainly well rested after his one-year retirement. He excels, though, as a pass catcher, especially in the red zone. But with a banged-up offensive line, can he bring some extra blocking power in? Is certainly needed for Bryce Young as well. Certainly something the Panthers are welcome with open arms.
It's exciting. You know, he's a vet. He knows he's been in the league. I don't even know how many years now. So he knows football, and I'm sure he's going to share a lot more knowledge with us.
I mean, I think there's already guys that have those skills in the room right now. I think everybody in the room has some unique skills that they bring to the table, and I feel like I do as well. And I think together we'll create a group that really brings a lot of value to the offense this season.
Versatility, you can play him like a tight end, you can play him like a receiver. He's huge. I mean, just, you know, standing with him out there, he's all of 6'6.5". He's lean, he can run, all those things. It's a unique element, you know, that he brings to whatever offense he's been a part of. And so the goal is to just throw him into that room, challenge that room, and see which guys want to elevate and create that role for Bryce.
All right, we see the Panthers run 2, even 3 tight end sets, so there's certainly going to be a bunch of guessing when it comes to how Waller now will be used. Here's the current tight end depth chart according to the team. Tommy Tremble, Jatavian Sanders are your 1-2 punch at the top of the line. Up there for now, though. Mitchell Evans, he got a shake in games a ton near the end of last season and in his rookie season. James Mitchell's been showing up this preseason as well. Felipe Franks is more of a special teams juice guy, despite the former Florida quarterback turned tight end now being listed as one. Waller certainly will have to earn his way up on the ladder here. It's not showed as well. Caden Prescorn, he's already been on 5 different practice squads since entering the NFL just last season. And another piece of news that we saw on Tuesday, another name's getting immortalized at Bank of America Stadium. The Panthers will induct Luke Kuechly into its Ring of Excellence during its home game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on October 25th. Luke, who was just enshrined in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, will have his name and number join those of Wesley Wall, Steve Smith Sr., Julius Peppers, Jordan Gross, and Sam Mills. So certainly a well-deserved honor, a long overdue honor for 59. And we got a lot more for the Carolina Panthers, that is. That's the news of the day today in Jacksonville for a 9:30 joint practice. We'll hear from the team. We'll show you some videos, what went down there in Duval. And we got a lot more to talk about tonight at 11 o'clock on Carolina Sports Live.
Well, the Crown is getting right back to work after their 3-1 win on Saturday against Columbus. They're up north in Toronto tonight as their long string of matches continue. Unfortunately, they'll do so without the help of Harry Toffolo, who's out with a hamstring injury that will keep him sidelined until the end of the month. Tonight's match begins at 7:30. All right, let's bring in meteorologist Brandon Lawson. Brandon, as you take a look at the temperatures, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it's coming this weekend.
It sure does. Temperatures dropping back to the 80s again on Saturday. Could even see some upper 80s on Friday, too, as the frontal boundary moves in. Still got to get through the middle of the week heat here, mid to upper 90s today, tomorrow. Today, though, going to be the cooler day, and then we get to the 80s by the weekend, which is right where we should be for this time of year. Heat risk today, guess what? No heat advisories for today. So there's already some light. We're already seeing it a good bit. It's like glowing at us. We just haven't walked into the light yet. It's like the end of a cave almost. Today, again, no heat advisories in effect. We do have low to mid 90s, though. It will be hot. It will be humid. I've got low to mid 80s in the mountains with those upper 90s farther south towards Sherall and Rockingham. This morning, we're starting in the upper 60s, low to mid 70s. Very similar to how we started yesterday morning. High pressure's in control. Dry high pressure. That'll keep us dry, but notice there's moisture back to the west over towards St. Louis. That's going to be headed our way as we get into later this week as as a frontal boundary moves in on us. So radar is dry for now. We'll be dry through the day today as well. Not really expecting a lot of showers tomorrow, maybe a few stray showers in the mountains and foothills, but we should be dry for most of the day tomorrow as well with more sun. And then we start getting stormy conditions late Thursday into early Friday, and that will be a part of that frontal boundary that essentially is going to throw a lot of moisture our way. A lot of Gulf moisture riding along the boundary, producing rounds of showers and storms on Friday and even into Friday night as well. And then we slowly start to dry out for the weekend. Still a few isolated storms around for Saturday and into Sunday. Do have a flash flood risk for Friday. It's mainly southeast of I-85. I'm thinking more of an isolated flash flood threat, just with some of those repeated downpours. And whenever you're talking about half an inch to an inch of rain, mainly in one day, definitely going to have at least a chance for some localized high water. Friday night football starts up for many high school programs in the Carolinas. Storms are likely again this Friday night. A lot of schools have already moved their varsity football games to Thursday night, so just keep that in mind if you do have any games planned. You might want to move it to Thursday to avoid the rain and storms. 80s in the mountains, 70s later this week though, and then we'll be in the 80s here in Charlotte by Saturday, but we do have to track that at the expense of thunderstorms by Friday. You're watching Queen City News Now, the most iron, the most local news in Charlotte. We'll be right back.
You may also
wow.
miss that she's wearing a Pikachu shirt. This is a unique contest that's going viral. A group of women came out to the Iowa State Fair to show off their talents in chicken calling. Each participant was called to do a call with high-pitched voices, rapid changes in tone, and loud calls of hit, chick, 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 all mixed in with some squawks. Here's the kicker. The winner of the contest doesn't even own chickens.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Okay, so I have been to many an Iowa State Fair.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I was exposed to chicken washing.
Say what?
What?
Exactly.
Like bathing?
Like it was
bathing?
like one of the most horrifying things. The chickens are fine, but I had to leave the room. It was just so chaotic. They dip them in water to like wash them. But as you can imagine, the feathers and the squawking and like all of this stuff. But Iowa State Fair.
That's a contest?
I don't know if it was a contest or a demonstration. I didn't really.
How to wash your chicken at home?
I guess so. I don't know, but this doesn't surprise me at all. I think I would have loved to have seen this competition. But if you ever have the chance to go to the Iowa State Fair,
put it on the list.
It's
I heard
really
it's one of the
cool.
largest
It
in the
is
country.
Incredible.
They have the butter sculpture there too,
They have the
right?
butter cow
Oh,
every year.
Yeah.
They do the cow, but then every year they sculpt a butter figurine out of, whoever it might be. So during the 2008 Olympics, it was Shawn Johnson, who was an Iowa native.
Right.
They've done.
They did Caitlin Clark,
They
right?
did Caitlin Clark, I'm sure.
Did they ever make an Annie Satowski since you
know
were
what?
a part of
I
the?
put in a submission.
Yeah.
And I never heard back.
You get a margarine one.
You probably will.
like
Like
the
I can
second
see
tier.
you like on a balance beam, butter sculpture.
Butter sculpture.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
I like that.
also
I'd buy one.
There we go.
Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
Put it in the fridge.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, there you have it. Have that with your breakfast biscuit. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 3 minutes. North Carolina residents could soon store a digital driver's license on their phone as the state expands mobile ID options. So Arizona is the first state out there to allow a driver's license to be uploaded into your Apple Wallet. The NCDMV says that a digital ID will launch later this year through the state's new NC Wallet app. Support for Apple Wallet is expected to follow in early 2027, allowing users to add their driver's license directly to your iPhone. North Carolina would join a growing list of other states offering digital IDs through Apple's Wallet platform. I am here for that. All right, it is 6:59. Hopefully you're here for us. We got another 4 hours, 3 hours. I don't know. Math's not my thing. Just stick around all day, shall we? We'll be back.
Now it's 7 o'clock on your Wednesday morning. We're talking about heat like we have been over the last several days, but I'm saying heat continues for now because the cool down is getting closer. We're talking about the hotter conditions that we do have to deal with for the middle of the week, and then the stormy and cooler weather comes for later this week.
I feel very confident about my leadership and the leadership of our team.
Charlotte-Mecklenburg Superintendent Dr. Crystal Hill is confident as the start of the school year approaches, but this morning questions remain over her unexplained suspension.
I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not on national security. I'm not that informed on national security, so.
Did interim Senator Darlene Graham hurt her chances in last night's debate? We're taking a closer look at the race itself as early voting begins in that GOP runoff.
Queen City News starts now.
Good Wednesday morning, everyone. 7:01. Welcome into Queen City News. I'm Jason Harper.
I'm Annie Satowski.
I'm Julian Sidor.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Lawson for Ted Payton this morning, and we're tracking the heat. It continues to be the story. I mean, I think that's really what, like, I could just write an essay. Like, I feel like it's like, you know, when you got punished as a kid and you had to, at school, you had to rewrite a word
like
multiple
100
times.
times.
The Bart Simpson on the blackboard.
Yeah, I feel like that's like my punishment, just putting heat on the forecast. Hot. You know, it's just that's been the deal lately. But we're going to go down sight.
Yes, thank goodness.
That's good news.
Yeah, honestly, it's going to be great this weekend. Temperatures are going to be back in the 80s again. But before that, we still got to get through some heat as we go through the middle of the week. As a matter of fact, I actually think it's going to get hotter as we get towards tomorrow. Temperatures trying to advance towards the upper 90s again. Live look around the crowd this morning. Again, it is a very peaceful start out there for our morning commute and for our kiddos that might be headed to the bus stop this morning. I know a lot of schools are back. Charlotte-Mecklenburg School is not back. Maybe the kids will be enjoying the pool today in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system as they enjoy the last week or so here of time off for summer. No heat advisories today. That is the good news when it comes down to this heat. The heat isn't as dangerous today, but it doesn't mean you go outside, not drink water, and not take frequent breaks. You still want to be careful out there. The humidity is still going to be on for today. So going to feel like near 100 degrees around the Charlotte area. Could it see that 100-degree feels like temperature down towards Sherrall and Rockingham? Temperatures in the 60s and low to mid 70s this morning. Again, it's a very similar start to how we started things yesterday morning. Mostly clear, pretty calm morning. And then again, it is humid, so it doesn't feel incredible, but at least it's not raining on our kids at the bus stop. We don't have to worry about fog either on your morning commute. Here's a look at radar this morning. Things are pretty tame out there. We're expecting a 0% chance of rain today, so that's good news, but this will be the last day that we have to track 0% chance of rain here for the rest of the week. We actually have storm chances increasing towards the end of the work week. I'll time out the storm chances for you and let you know what it could do to our temperature forecast here soon in just a bit, guys.
Brandon, thank you. City and county leaders from across the region are gathering today for a pivotal conversation about the I-77 South Toll Lane project.
Members of the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization will once again weigh the decision to either allow the project to move forward or pay the state back millions for the project's design costs.
Queen City News anchor Savannah Roussel is live along the interstate as the debate heats up. Savannah, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Leaders of local governments around the area have spent good portions of the past couple of weeks trying to decide if they will flip their decision and let this toll lane project go ahead, or if they will stand their ground, stick with the original decision to pull support. We know that today the members of the CRTPO will not be voting. However, they will be discussing with other members of the planning organization to try to decide if they can come to a consensus. Officials in Cornelius, Statesville, Huntersville, and Monroe, they have already directed their representatives on the CRTPO to switch their vote. They cite the threat of a state clawback and say that the cost to their taxpayers is too great, while some believe that these toll lanes will help alleviate traffic from uptown to the state line. Authorities in Davidson and Mecklenburg County, they've indicated they'll remain in opposition. Some say community advocates concerned about potential displacement of residents and environmental impacts, they say they deserve to be heard, while others say they're mostly unhappy with state leaders trying to force their hand.
I believe that this legislation potentially illegally takes away the authority of the MPO to make transportation decisions for this community. And I believe that it may be a violation against bills of attainder in that it specifically targets Mecklenburg County. And I question the $60 million penalty that it seeks to impose as a number that may be inflated or wrong.
The group meets tonight at 6, once again, just for the discussion. Their vote will come in their September meeting here in a couple of weeks. Now, a recent poll shows more Charlotteans may be in favor of the toll lanes than originally thought. We're going to break down some of those statistics coming up in our next hour. Reporting live in Charlotte, Savannah Rudisell, Queen City News.
Savannah, thank you. Charlotte-Mecklenburg school students will be heading back to class next Tuesday. The first day of school comes shortly after the district superintendent was reinstated following a 2-month investigation. Dr. Crystal Hill spoke publicly Tuesday for the very first time since the school board voted to bring her back. But as Queen City News anchor Caroline Boyer tells us, many questions remain about what prompted her suspension in the first place.
At a back-to-school media briefing Tuesday, the focus on a new year quickly shifted to a call for transparency from district officials. They've yet to release any details about Superintendent Dr. Crystal Hill's 8-week suspension.
I want to acknowledge the events of the past several weeks. To ignore it or to pretend that it didn't happen would not be authentic, and that's simply not who I am.
That's how the superintendent started off her first public appearance following her reinstatement.
However, I want to point out that today is not the time or the place to have that discussion.
District leaders tried to turn discussion toward wins for the upcoming school year. They touted a decrease in the total number of criminal acts on campuses during the past few years, a lower than 2% teacher vacancy rate, and new guidelines to limit technology use in the classroom, particularly for grades K through 2.
But our focus is really on looking at making sure that technology use at all levels, certainly first is developmentally appropriate, but that it is purposeful.
Despite school officials instructing reporters to only ask about back-to-school preps.
You can certainly email media and then we can get back to you, but we're not answering any questions.
The conversation kept going back to Dr. Hill's leave.
I feel very confident about my leadership and the leadership of our team.
A few school board members were in the room for the press conference. One of them, Cynthia Stone, didn't answer questions directly about the investigation, but did say this.
If, for example, the CEO of Kroger had an experience like this, do you think the grocery stores would close or open? They'd open, of course, and that's what we're going to do.
Board Chair Stephanie Sneed left before taking any questions. On Hill's way out, she did emphasize this won't be the last time we discuss the weeks-long probe.
There will be an opportunity for more information to be shared sooner rather than later.
It's unclear when we'll learn more details about this investigation. All we know is we were promised they're coming soon. The first day of school for students is Tuesday, August 25th. In Charlotte, Caroline Boyer, Queen City News.
Governor Josh Stein is delivering school supplies today in Concord. He's scheduled to stop by Irvin Elementary. The supplies were all collected as part of the annual Governor's School Supply Drive. Earlier this summer, Stein also signed the state budget, which included teacher raises and support for programs to improve student outcomes.
President Trump is coming to South Carolina later this week to go to bat for one of his supporters. The president will hold a rally in Myrtle Beach Friday to campaign for Senator Darlene Graham ahead of next Tuesday's GOP primary runoff. Early voting begins today in that race between Graham and York County Congressman Ralph Norman. The two faced off in a debate last night. Norman was asked about growing concerns about data centers and incentives for their development, while some say Graham stumbled when she came and was asked a question about Taiwan and the South China Sea.
I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not on national security. I'm not that informed on national security, but I do support the military. My brother was in the Air Force for 33 years, so I will do everything I can to support the military. My dad was in the Army. I'm not a polished politician up here. National security is not my thing, not my area of expertise, but I do support the military.
Let them pay their own way, and if it has a return on investment for them, but it's got to have a return on investment for the community, and they've had a free ride. So I will call attention to it, and I will we'll do whatever it takes to educate the public on what's going on.
Polls for early voting open at 8:30 this morning and close at 5. All right, let's get over to meteorologist Brandon Lawson here, taking a look at just how hot we have been.
Yeah.
And the history is kind of interesting.
Yeah, you know, we've had 53 days of 90 degrees or higher in Charlotte so far this year. That's already above the average of 44 that we typically see each year. 88 days. That has happened back in the 1950s here in Charlotte. That's how many days we saw 90 degrees then. Luckily, I don't think we're going to get there this year. Now, we've seen worse streaks, but we're now at 12 days in a row of 90 degrees or higher in Charlotte. We've actually reached 33 days in a row before. Again, that was back in 1993. But I want to show you something. I think I've kind of figured it out here. Let me step off your screen so you can see it. I think we've moved Mercury and Venus to side of the way. Yeah, I think North Carolina and South Carolina have replaced it in the solar system, and that's why we've been so hot. The sun just shining bright over top of us, and we're just kind of leaving Earth here. Again, it has just been a scorcher here lately. Today's high temperature is going to be back in the mid-90s today. 94 in Charlotte, 96 Monroe, 97 Sherrill, and 91 up towards Hickory, Morganton, Statesville, with 80s in the mountains. High temperatures, though, I've got 97 for tomorrow. It does get hotter, but much cooler weather's on the way for Saturday. 88 degrees or high temperature. It does come at the expense of more showers and storms, though, and I'll time those out and the threats coming with them later this week. Coming up in just a bit, Jason.
Brandon, thank you very much. Rush hour officially started 11 minutes ago. We are seeing volume pick up around the crown. We also have more daylight, which is helping us see the volume that's all around. If you're coming in from the west side of town, I hope you got your sunglasses. It is beaming down, especially if you're coming in from Gaston County this morning. Let's show you overall how things are looking. We just saw that shot of inbound Independence. Looking good. That's the east side of town. West side of town is where we typically see a lot of the activity first, and that is exactly what's happening today. Matter of fact, it's way out west. If you're 85 southbound, heading away from town towards Spartanburg, Greenville, Atlanta. Before you get to Bessemer City, we've got an accident. It's been moved to the shoulder. There's the good news. But it's still, we've got a couple lanes really slow as you're trying to plug along to head southbound towards South Carolina. So just be aware of that if you're heading that direction this morning. On the inside of the 485 loop, 85 northbound, we've got an accident. The right lane is blocked. This is 85 north at Tuckasegee Road. It's backed up to Billy Graham Parkway, so just be aware of that if you're trying to take 85 a little closer to Uptown. Overall drive times, less than 30 minutes. The longest stretch here is 77 south coming down from the Lake Norman area. You're at right around half an hour. Let's take you up there right now. Beautiful shot. Sun is now up in Iredell County over Lake Norman. That traffic steady north and south, whether you're headed up towards Statesville or into Charlotte. It's going to be a little slow up on 77. Closer to town, 77 southbound on the left-hand side, working its way into Uptown. Here's your drive times. If you're headed to Charlotte Douglas this morning, as always, check with your app, your airline to make sure no delays. Right now, coming up from South Carolina, the Rock Hill area, 40 minutes. You got the longest stretch. We'll give you another look at your drive times coming up around 7:30. Julian?
All right, thank you, Jason. Charlotte leaders are considering restrictions on street vendors selling food late at night. The reasons and the reaction from people in the industry. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored, the most local news in Charlotte. We'll be right back. Late-night food truck operators say a permanent midnight shutdown in Uptown could cost them big money. The owners say up until June, they usually stayed open until 3 or 4 a.m. Now they're hoping Uptown leaders in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police will reconsider the closing time. The move to limit their hours is aimed at curbing crime after the bars close. But as Queen City News reporter Shakira Speaks found out, the late hours is where all the business actually comes from.
We're street business. We're street food. We serve the crowds. So the crowds usually come out to the city around 10, 11 o'clock. That is when the business starts.
But for the last 2 months, these halal food truck managers say they've been forced to close at midnight, 3 to 4 hours earlier than normal. Manager Weiss Mayer says it's hurt their business in the community as they serve the late night gig economy like DoorDash and Uber drivers.
Our food truck is the only late food that they can find, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. on the weekends. And also people who come here for a late night for the bars and clubs, they also rely on our food.
Mayor says they received an email in June from Charlotte Center City Partners requesting the trucks temporarily stop serving customers at midnight. He says they complied. They later received another email saying the new hours would be permanent. Managers were told it was because of, quote, recent public safety concerns.
It has affected about more than 40% of our revenue.
An online petition opposing the move has over 1,200 signatures on change.org and even more physical signatures. And people on social media are trying to get the restrictions loosened.
Where exactly are y'all expecting them to get food?
To me, it's bigger than just the food. It's bigger than our nightlife. It is about the fact that there is a broader community that exists at night that needs their help, that needs to stop by and talk to them, get food from them, and sometimes just needs their eyes on them.
Kate Glaze has posted on TikTok to support the petition. She says she doesn't believe the truck should be closed because of late night violence. Glaze hopes the city, law enforcement, and the food truck owners can find common ground around the business hours.
You know, how does that affect them? How does it affect the broader community? And if you're doing it with this business, where does it stop?
Again, that was Shakira Speaks reporting. City Councilmember Joy Mayo says Uptown is regulated by the Charlotte City Center Partners, an economic and community development organization, not the city. Officials with the group declined to comment, referring us to CMPD. We have not heard back from police, but leaders say they're considering an Uptown street vendor program modeled after the one used over in Noda.
The U.S. and Canada have reached a last-minute deal to delay new 50% tariffs on billions of dollars in Canadian imports. President Trump announced a 3-day pause just hours before the tariffs were set to take effect. The tariffs would have hit about $20 billion in Canadian goods, sparking retaliatory measures from Canada. Both sides say that talks will continue as negotiators work to finalize a broader trade agreement.
More key witnesses are set to take the stand today in the murder trial for Lindsay Clancy. She's a Massachusetts woman accused of killing her 3 children. Her attorney argues that she was suffering from postpartum psychosis made worse by overmedication and should not be held criminally responsible. Dr. Donald Conde, a child and adult psychiatrist, took the stand Tuesday. He did not treat Lindsay but reviewed her medical records, which stated that she was experiencing brain fog and dizziness, symptoms of postpartum illness.
These are sometimes symptoms that people who are experiencing postpartum depression frequently complain about.
Well, it's not what they're complaining about, it's what they're living, right?
It is a very unpleasant experience.
Prosecutors have argued Lindsay was sane and intentionally killed her children during cross-examination. They said Lindsay's symptoms appeared 5 months after childbirth, suggesting it was too late to be postpartum illness. If found not criminally responsible, Lindsay Clancy would be committed to a state psychiatric hospital. 7:19 the time. Let's get over to meteorologist Brandon Lawson, taking a look at how hot we're going to get today. Another day in the 90s.
Yeah, temperatures are going to be heating up well into the 90s again today, Julian. We've got temperatures in the low to mid 90s this afternoon. 94 for Charlotte, 96 Monroe, 97 Sherrall, 80s in the mountains. Now, Jason Harper kept asking me earlier in the week, when are we going to get cooler? How are we going to get cooler? I was trying to think of a way to show that, and I want to count down to some of the holidays we have coming up towards the end of the year. Labor Day is in 19 days. We usually see about 85 degrees for Labor Day. And then as you get down to Halloween, which is 73 days away, 68 degrees the average temperature then. And then as you're getting towards Thanksgiving, we start getting into more of the upper 50s and low 60s. Christmas, our average high 53, although last year we had 79. So again, we don't always get these averages, but we do have some cooler temperatures to look forward to and a lot of holidays with family and friends to look forward to as well. High pressure is well in control. Dry high pressure going to keep us dry. We've got storms moving through St. Louis this morning. We'll stay dry today, all because of that high pressure center over the region. Plenty of sunshine, but just hot and humid out there. Then as we go into your Thursday, we've got a few showers popping up in the mountains and foothills here as we go through the first part of the day. We'll be dry for Thursday afternoon, though. Plenty of sun for Thursday and into Thursday evening. But then as we go into Thursday night, we start getting unsettled. Here come your storms Thursday evening and Thursday night. And then even into Friday, this frontal boundary just kind of hangs out. It's slow moving. So we'll track rounds of showers and storms through the day on Friday, even into Friday night when a lot of high school football programs in the Carolinas are planning on getting that season opener in. I know a lot of varsity football programs have already moved their games to Thursday night to avoid those storms. Isolated stormy conditions for Saturday, and we get our big cool down Saturday as well, back in the 80s. Isolated flash flooding, that's the threat here on Friday. Again, with those rounds of showers and storms, you just get concerned about maybe some isolated high water in some of the poor drains, low-lying areas, especially when you're talking about a ½ an inch to 3/4 of an inch of rain, up to an inch down towards Sherrill and Rockingham expected. And again, this is mainly Friday through Saturday. Here's the Eastern Mountain forecast. Temperatures in the 70s and 80s. We'll call it mainly 80s today and tomorrow, back in the 70s by Friday with those stormy conditions increasing. And then here in Charlotte, temperatures in the mid-90s today, upper 90s tomorrow, and then we'll get back into the upper 80s and low 90s really through the weekend and into next week as well, with lower humidity returning by next Monday. You're watching Queen City News Now. It's the most honorable local news in Charlotte. We'll be right back.
Check this out. An incredible discovery by construction workers uncovered millions of dollars in Belgium. Crews say they unearthed more than $10 million worth of gold under a former brewery. The workers were building a new sewer in a community just outside of Brussels when they found all the gold. They immediately contacted police, dummies. Officers placed the gold in a high-security vault. Despite finding it, the construction workers don't actually get to keep the gold. Under Belgian law, the rightful owner can claim the gold within 5 years. You see why I said dummies? They don't get to keep the gold.
At least a finder's fee.
But they have a conscience, which is great.
Whoa, no!
I mean,
Julie's like, no to conscience.
But you know what? Thank you for finding my gold. Yes, I hid it under the brewery, hoping somebody would find it. You each get one gold bar. I mean, come on. So what? I want to know what happens after 5 years. Then what happens?
It probably goes to like the government or something.
Oh, you know they're going to figure out how to get their share, if not all of it.
It's just crazy to stumble across that amount of gold.
Why can't I find stuff like that?
I took field trips to Reed's Gold Mine up in Cabarrus County like my entire elementary school life and never could find that.
Yeah,
and I'm going to the place for it, but no, I'm working on the sewer and
Those nuggets probably aren't even real, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, I know, but it's still, it means,
it
means something.
Something, yeah. You know, and like the 4th, 5th grade, you know, that was gold to be.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, if I went there, I'd probably be like, all right, I need to add
one bar. I would just take one bar out of that whole thing.
Good.
Worth enough.
Just one.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, there you go.
Let's return it to Julian here.
No.
Then you can help me out.
I got you. I got you.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
Another day, what feels like temperatures near 100 degrees. That's the story here at 7:30. Talking about hotter temperatures ahead even into tomorrow, but there is a big cool down in sight, and it's not far away. We can see it. We'll talk about when that cool down comes and just how cool it's going to be.
Just because something's hard and difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't do it.
Implementing state recommendations to improve the light rail in Charlotte could prove to be a tough and expensive challenge. How other major U.S. cities are addressing similar problems with solutions of their own.
And Iredell County officials say they have finally cracked the months-long Biffle family break-in case. Why they say the suspect planned the crime extensively and how investigators finally tracked him down. It's 7:30 on this Wednesday morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Annie Satowski.
I'm Julian Sador.
I'm Jason Harper. Nice to have you with us today. Hopefully you're somewhere where it's much cooler than it is outside. Meteorologist Brandon Lawson says it's going to be hot again today. Hotter tomorrow, Brandon, is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Jason. I don't even want to say it. It will be a little bit hotter as we go into tomorrow, but we are going to cool down. So we've got 2 more days of this more intense heat, and then we get cooler. Behind me, I've got the 12 days now in a row counter of 9 degrees or higher. That includes today. We'll be well into the 90s today with about 94, 95 degrees later this afternoon in Charlotte. This is a live look from uptown, our exclusive Arlington camera, showing plenty of sunshine out there. The sun will be shining bright on us today. Make sure that you are wearing the sunscreen. You will certainly need it. The 60s and low 70s will be the story today. 73 in Charlotte, 73 Rock Hill, 72 Shelby, and 65 in Boone. The story this morning, again, pretty comfortable out there other than the humidity. I know it's humid, but at least it's a little less than yesterday. And I've been showing the pool forecast a lot, but I just can't get over the fact that pool season's closely coming to an end. Again, we're only about 15 to 20 days away from Labor Day weekend. You got temperatures in the mid 90s this afternoon. So again, just be careful out in the heat. There are no heat advisories today. That's the first time we've been able to say that since late last week. No heat advisories for the entire Queen City News viewing area. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be hot and humid and that you shouldn't drink water and take breaks. It just means that the heat's not going to reach that more dangerous level that we've seen earlier this week. Again, forecast heat index feels like temperatures around 100 degrees in Charlotte. Probably not quite at that in the Queen City and points north, but southeast of Charlotte, we'll likely exceed those 100-degree feels-like temperatures in Sherrall and Rockingham. Radar is dry this morning. No concerns for your morning commute. Again, it's a peaceful morning, and no fog, and we've got clear skies. Just make sure you have the shades. Futurecast showing things quiet this afternoon. No storm chances to talk about. Again, temperatures, it's selling into the low to mid 90s, but we are going to get the cool down. It is going to come at the expense of showers and storms later this week. Storm chances increasing. I'll let you know when we'll see the best chance for storms and what event Friday night has been pushed to Thursday for many high school schools. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, Jason.
Brandon, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Looking forward to the cool down. Hopefully you've got a way to cool down in your car, your truck, whatever you're driving in this morning. Hopefully the AC is working, and make sure wipers are all good to go, not cracked and streaking for when the rain eventually does come our way. Right now, things are looking good as far as traffic on the east side of town. Here's inbound Independence, that traffic camera. A little breezy up top of the that pole that it's sticking on. So this is the east side looking good overall as we look around the crown now that we're 30 minutes into rush hour. We're seeing a number of issues start to grow, really just volume, no major accidents, which is really good news as far as 85 northbound inside the 485 loop. This is near Tuckasegee Road, right lane blocked. We're not seeing major slowdowns for that, which is good. This is between Billy Graham Parkway and Tuckasegee, so at least traffic is still moving. Overall drive times, 37 minutes is the longest stretch if you're coming down from the top of Lake Norman, trying to work your way into the Queen City this morning. Matter of fact, let's take you there. Beautiful shot. Courtesy of NCDOT, north and south going across 77, going across the water there. A little further down near Huntersville. Here's Sanford Road. If you look at the top of the bend on the right-hand side, all the way to the bend, you can see that's where traffic starts to slow down right before you get to 485 between Huntersville and just north of the city. Once you get through all that, this is just north of Uptown, 77 southbound on the left, right before LaSalle Street, trying to work your way into Uptown. As always, as we say, check with your airlines. Make sure there's no delays or cancellations. Shouldn't be too bad, but as far as getting there, 46 minutes. Look at that. Whether you're coming up from Rock Hill, South Carolina, or down from the Lake Norman area, still over 45 minutes. We'll give you another update coming your way at the top of the hour. Julian.
All right, Jason, thank you. The controversial I-77 toll lane project will be back on the table tonight as the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization plans to meet. What remains to be seen is if they'll hold their ground. The group pulled its support of the toll lane project back in May after leaders cited problems with the project, including the efficiency of toll lanes and the impacts on historically black neighborhoods and the environment. However, last month, North Carolina lawmakers passed a provision in the budget that would require municipal governments to pay back the $60 million for the I-77 designs if they choose not to go forward with them. Because of that, other cities like Concord have already decided to reverse path and back the project. The CRTPO is expected to vote next month on whether to reverse their stance on the plan. The board meeting tonight begins at 6 in Uptown.
Charlotte area transit officials estimate the city loses up to $6.5 million in revenue due to unpaid fares. To combat that and to help with public safety, the state auditor is recommending CATS install turnstiles at light rail stations. But as Queen City News reporter Matt Stell explains, not everyone is on board with that idea, and others just don't think it'll work.
Attention passengers. Failure to show valid proof of payment may result in a citation.
But despite that friendly warning, North Carolina State Auditor Dave Bullock says fare enforcement on buses and trains is essentially non-existent in the city of Charlotte.
At some point, there ought to be a mechanism to actually enforce the fares. Either that or there needs to be a public policy of eliminating the fares altogether.
In his final report regarding CATS's safety and security, which comes nearly a year after Irina Zarutska was killed on Charlotte's Blue Line, Bullock strongly recommends that CATS add turnstiles or gates to every light rail station. It's an idea that many have called unfeasible or too costly because of how the open-air platforms are built.
What I've heard and feedback is that it's hard and difficult to do. Well, just because something's hard and difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't do it.
Now, for instance, here at the Parkwood station in Noda, under the auditor's recommendations, CATS would have to add turnstiles or at least gates to at least one or two of these entrances to the open-air platform. Then CATS would also have to add fencing to keep fare evaders from easily hopping over. But that's just here at Parkwood. That would have to happen at every stop along the Blue Line. In the city of St. Louis, transit officials there are spending more than $50 million to add turnstiles and enclosed light rail platforms as part of safety upgrades. But Charlotte City Council member Dimple Ajmer believes Charlotte isn't ready to spend that type of money yet.
Before we throw away millions of dollars in installing gates and turnstiles, we need to. The evidence shows that it will help us keep our system safe.
Instead, Ajmer believes that CATS should focus more on truly enforcing its exclusion list, which essentially bans problem passengers from riding after multiple offenses.
Otherwise, it's just a list if you don't enforce it. And that's where the rubber meets the road.
In response to the auditor's recommendations, CATS pointed to improvements that it has already made in the last year, but did not commit to adding turnstiles or gates to platforms. In Charlotte, Matt Stell, Queen City News.
Authorities say the suspect who was shot by a Monroe police officer over the weekend has died. Investigators say an officer responded to a home breaking call Sunday night along Alda Drive and came across Francisco Montes Hernandez, who was holding a gun. According to police, he was told to drop it, but instead raised the gun and the officer returned and opened fire. Nobody else was hurt. Officials say the officer who fired his weapon is now on administrative leave pending investigation by the State Bureau of Investigation, which is standard procedure following any officer-involved shooting.
After more than half a year going unsolved, investigators say they finally know who broke into the home of the late NASCAR legend Greg Biffle, just weeks after he and his family were killed in a tragic plane crash in Statesville. The suspect was found in Georgia and is now facing charges. Queen City News reporter Jen Cardone shares how investigators connected the suspect to the crime.
It was a ring that Terrell Williams was found with when he was arrested in Georgia that officers were able to connect to memorabilia of Greg Biffle. Sheriff Darren Campbell says the Cobb County Sheriff's Office called his office July 29th and they were able to connect the dots. Looking at surveillance footage we got from police earlier this year, detectives say they executed about 24 search warrants and cell phone data. They say Williams's digital footprint places him at the Biffle residence the night of the January crime, but due to low light and infrared surveillance footage, they could not conclusively identify Williams from the video alone. The sheriff says Williams monitored news headlines and social media to find out when homeowners were likely away. We're told he used an RF detector to locate security cameras and wireless surveillance equipment while moving through the Biffle residence. Officials say the day after the burglary, he used stolen cash from the Biffles to buy a vehicle that they were able to connect using flock camera technology.
I'm just glad that we're able to get a little bit of relief, I think is a good way to put it, and to get some of the valuable things back to their family.
Sheriff Campbell says Williams is connected to other high-profile crimes, including a 2019 Charlotte break-in. In Georgia, he's connected to another home break-in where the victim was an owner of a Fortune 500 company. Investigators say Williams also had a stolen firearm that belonged to an officer from Western North Carolina who was in the hospital at the time. We're told Williams uses 6 to 7 aliases to stay under the radar. The sheriff says they're not even close to wrapping up this investigation and are looking into other suspects and charges connected to this case. Reporting in Statesville, Jen Cardone, Queen City News.
Early voting for the South Carolina Senate Republican primary runoff begins this morning. That'll run until Friday. Polls will be open from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. Voters must have a photo ID in order to cast their ballot. Voters who participated in the June Democratic primary are not eligible to vote in this runoff.
Opening statements in the trial against Meta's social media platforms have started. Nearly 30 states, including North Carolina, are seeking billions of dollars in damages for alleged harm to children. The attorneys general say Meta designed Facebook and Instagram to keep minors addicted. They also claim they did so while downplaying the risks to their mental health. Many families impacted were at the trial. A mother wanted to speak out after she lost her 16-year-old daughter.
Owl didn't die by accident. She died by design. Meta's own engineers built an algorithm that knew exactly what to show a struggling 16-year-old girl to keep her scrolling and what that content could do to her. They knew and they did it anyway. That's why this trial matters.
Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg and the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, are expected to take the stand at some point during the trial.
A bittersweet start to the day for SportsCenter fans. Co-founder of ESPN, Bill Rasmussen, passed away on Tuesday due to complications of Parkinson's disease. He was 93 years old. Rasmussen and his son founded ESPN in 1979, but were forced out only a year later by ESPN majority owner Getty Oil. Rasmussen was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease back in 2014. He was inducted into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame in 2025.
The legal fight over a baby born last week with a congenital heart defect is getting even more heated. A surrogate who claims the child's biological parents wanted her to have an abortion is demanding parental rights. We're speaking with Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes about the complicated multi-state custody battle. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored in local news in Charlotte. Welcome back. An update on a multi-state surrogacy legal battle involving a Los Angeles couple. The baby was diagnosed in utero with a critical congenital heart defect called hypoplastic left heart syndrome, or HLHS. He has since received surgical care and is in critical condition. The surrogate claims that his biological parents, who again live in LA, pressured her to get an abortion, which they deny.
It gets a little more complicated. She fled to Texas. That's where the baby was born. Now a temporary restraining order has been placed against the surrogate, McKenna West, giving the biological parents full custody and decision-making authority over the newborn.
All right, obviously we have our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes, here. She's claiming that the judge ruled the wrong way and that the temporary restraining order should be against the biological parents, not her. This case has so many different levels. Let's start there with this temporary restraining order. What do you think about that?
Well, I can unpack it as best as I can. You got 3 different states, Texas, Alaska, and California, and so that adds layers to the already complicated situation. We know the standard for an injunction, irreparable harm, likelihood of success in the marriage, balance of the equities, and its public policy. And so the likelihood of the family being successful in the long run is highly likely, because all of the law would say that the intended parents, that's these biological parents that went through this process, would ultimately win in the long run. You can't throw money at something like a child. And so, yeah, this is irreparable harm, checks the box. The public policy would be in favor of giving the child that custodial aspect of it to the parents that were intended. And so I think this would be easy for why the judge went the direction that they did. And so now she's saying that they didn't follow the proper law. I haven't found any case law that would say a surrogate would have parental rights post delivery of the child. I mean, I looked at Texas law, which is extremely favorable pre-delivery of the child, and that's why she went to Texas. I didn't see any law in Texas, Alaska, or California that would support taking the child away from the intended parent. So I think that it would be extremely far-fetched to think that she would be successful, but saying that the judge got the law wrong, I think that's a misunderstanding of what Texas law, which she's, I think, alleging is where you should pull it from. But I would even argue that that's probably not the proper location to pull the law from.
Even though this is a newborn, you would think that whatever decision is made is in the child's best interest, right? So which holds more weight, biology or a surrogacy contract?
Well, a couple things. I think the surrogacy contract, unless it's telling you to do something, we've talked about this before. If the surrogacy contract was, okay, now you must abort the child, I think any language like that in the agreement would be, null and void, and she could disregard it, and you can sue her for that later. But I think that's why this is more of a choice of law question. What law is going to prevail? If the surrogacy contract was out of Alaska, which all reports say that it is, then that's what will control. And the Texas court would say, even though you are here and you delivered this child here, what does your agreement say? And that has control throughout. Even though lawsuits have been brought in California for the parental portion originally, and now being brought in Texas for now this custodial part after, I think that her arguments are way off base, and that the parental intended parents have legal rights based on every case that I've seen in the statutes. I mean, the statutes specifically say intended parents after delivery have all rights to the child.
Do you foresee this being solved quickly so the baby can therefore be brought home to California, even though it's going to take weeks to recover? Do you think that that'll be done before then?
Well, a couple things. I don't know if anything in the law is quick, so I'll start with that. I think this is going to move as fast as it can move. You get a lawsuit, you file a response, you have a hearing. Because it's something that's what's an injunction and multiple injunctions, these will be faster than the normal process. So I think all of those things will be resolved. The child leaving the state of Texas to go to California, I think that's just more complicated, obviously, because you had Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, involved as well. So I think adding all of those layers make it more complicated than before.
Again, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes, weighing on that for us. Khalif, thank you.
All right, let's get over to Brandon to talk about how hot we are climbing in the Carolinas today.
Yeah,
Brandon?
temperatures getting into the mid-90s today, upper 90s tomorrow, but then we get the cool down. By Friday and Saturday, we're diving down to the upper 80s and low 90s, a much-needed cool down for sure for the Carolinas. We've been roasting in the 90-degree heat for the last 2 weeks now. High pressure in control today. That's going to keep us dry. You see the showers moving through St. Louis. Those are going to be headed our way slowly but surely. Let's talk about Futurecast today. Things are dry, plenty of sunshine. sky, dry conditions. No concerns for the outdoor commutes this morning or any outdoor events you might have. And then here we're going to Thursday. More clouds tomorrow morning, especially north of I-40. Possibly even a shower or two up in the mountains and foothills to start the day. And then we're dry for the afternoon. Plenty of sun tomorrow afternoon as well. Temperatures actually getting hotter tomorrow ahead of a frontal boundary. And then here come more storms building in as we go into Thursday evening and also Friday morning. So as we go into Friday, that's the day that we're going to be gradually growing unsettled. You can kind of see this frontal boundary. It's just going to be kind of sitting here and slowly moving through the area. And that's going to allow moisture from the Gulf to continue to ride along it and produce showers and storms over our region. So it's rounds of showers and storms through Friday afternoon, also Friday evening. And again, Friday night, a lot of Friday night football games trying to get going for high school football in the Carolinas. And then Saturday, we turn dry for the most part with only maybe about a 20 to 30% chance of a shower and storm. Cooler too. About an inch of rain possible southeast of Charlotte towards Rockingham, Sherrill on Friday. And then as you're getting into the Charlotte area, more of like a half an inch of rain. I am concerned about maybe some localized flash flooding issues to end the work week. So if you have any plans Friday night, maybe go on your date with your significant other after a long week of work, or maybe just you have kid events Friday night after the game. So you're talking about Friday night football starting too. Just watch out for some high water. I do think there's going to be some areas where we could see some isolated localized flash flooding on Friday night. And speaking of Friday night, again, 70s for Friday night lights. There's a lot of varsity football programs around our region that have already moved games to Thursday night because of the storm threat for Friday night. So it's a heads up if you're thinking about doing that. Today's highs in the 90s, 80s in the mountains, the tropics tame for now. No systems expected over the next 7 days. 7-day forecast show those mid-90s today, upper 90s on Thursday, and then it gets cooler for the weekend, back in the 80s by Saturday after storms on Friday. You're watching Queen City News Now. It's the most high and most local news in Charlotte. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome back. Queen City News brings you 6 hours of news each and every weekday morning, and we still have 2 hours left to go. Here's a preview of what you can expect in our 8 and 9 o'clock hours. There were some surprising preliminary results in several states primary results, I should say, in several states last night. With less than 3 months until the midterms, we'll have a live report from Washington over what this means for November's battle to take control of Congress. A suspect has finally been charged in the break-in of late NASCAR star Greg Biffle's home. In our 9 o'clock hour, Chief Legal Analyst Collie Rhodes will be back to talk about what is next for the Georgia man facing these allegations. And the Panthers are taking a trip down to Florida, but it's not for summer vacation. As we know, they are getting ready to face off against the Jaguars in the Sunshine State. In our next hour, we'll have a look at how the team is battling the heat and getting prepared for their preseason matchup. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and local news in Charlotte.
Another food delivery platform is teaming up with a drone company to expand their service. Uber Eats is partnering with Zipline to start drone deliveries by the end of the year. According to the announcement, drone deliveries will only be available at first in existing Zipline markets. Zipline has previously partnered with Walmart and Chipotle to deliver food and retail items. A Ukrainian couple who fled the war in their home country is now sharing their love of jellyfish. Alex and Yana Yanovsky opened a jellyfish museum in Pompano Beach, Florida this spring. You can't make this up. This was after they left Ukraine in 2022. The 10,000 square foot attraction features about 20 different species, and it's believed to be the first U.S. museum dedicated entirely to jellyfish. The couple says they hope to expand their aquatic ventures in the future. I mean, there's something soothing and just really, I like the meditating, just watching those things just float around. Kind of cool. Look at it right now. Just look at it. Don't you feel better? All right, 2 more hours of Queen City News straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
City News starts now.
All right, after watching Jellyfish, I'm ready to go. Here we go. 2 more hours on this Wednesday hump day, almost 8 o'clock. Welcome to Queen City News, everyone. I'm Jason Harper.
I'm Andy Satowski.
I'm Julian Sador.
And I'm meteorologist Brandon Lawson for meteorologist Ted Fate this morning. Got your pinpoint weather forecast. Still talking about heat and humidity, but luckily a cool down is in sight. It's like getting closer now. I feel like it's like we're like closing in on it for sure.
Is that you?
Yeah, literally. And you know, it was like that earlier this week, but now like I feel like we don't even need glasses to see it. It's right. It's just right there at the weekend.
Right there on the horizon.
Yeah. So temperatures again going to be getting in the 80s again soon as we get towards the weekend, which is going to be really, really nice for our region, considering we've been in the 90s for the last 2 weeks. Around the Crown this morning, things are pretty calm out there. Quiet weather, a lot of Carolina blue skies shining bright on most of our cameras. A little hazy from our West Charlotte Tower camera on the top left. You can see that camera showing just a little bit of haze over uptown. Everybody else, though, dealing with pretty nice conditions out there. And I think I figured it out when it comes down to the solar system. I feel like things are changing a little bit. Mercury, Venus, move out of the way. You're being replaced by the Carolinas. That's what it's felt like here lately. The sun has just been shining bright right over top of us and heating us up here. So I feel like we're just kind of replacing Mercury, Venus and just putting the Carolinas in there. But I digress. Let's get back to Earth here a little bit and talk about the temperatures. Again, we are in the 90s this morning. 94 in Charlotte, 93 in Shelby, 93 Gastonia. We've got 91 in Statesville, 97 in Sherrall and Rockingham with the 80s in the mountains today. But the good news about today's heat is that we don't have any heat advisories in effect for today, which is really, really nice considering we've had heat advisories in parts of the Queen City News viewing area ever since last week, really late last week. So this would have been day 7 of heat advisories if we had them. Now, even though we don't have heat advisories, it doesn't mean you go outside and not drink water and take breaks when you can and just bake in the sun, because it can still be dangerous when it feels like temperatures near 100 degrees. And even southeast of Charlotte, Sherrall, Rockingham, spots could exceed 100-degree heat index values there. Just not going to be the heat advisory heat index values we need to get those heat advisories issued. 60s and low to mid 70s as you're headed out the door this morning. It's a warm start, but honestly, it's not terrible compared to what we had earlier in the week, especially Monday morning. The humidity's trying to come down a little bit. Radar is dry. We don't have any storm chances today either as we go through the afternoon. Not going to be seeing anything on Futurecast except for a few fair weather cumulus clouds. Dry high pressure continues to keep us dry and keep things pretty nice over the area. So although we're really dealing with the heat, it's the late summer heat push here, and we're at least not getting dumped on with the rain for the next couple of days. And if you're going to be at the pool today, it's a good day to do so. Again, near 80s, near 82 at 10 o'clock when most pools open up. Might be a little too hot during the afternoon, but later in the evening, probably dropping into at least the lower 80s by about 6 or 7 o'clock. Coming up in just a bit, though, we do have some much cooler temperatures on the way as we get towards the weekend, but it does come at the expense of rain and storm chances. I'll time those out for you. Coming up in just a little bit. Jason, how's traffic looking?
Well, definitely building. Let's put it that way. You can tell that most school districts are back in session. Not all. The big ones still coming in next week with CMS on Tuesday. But right now, man, all over the area, volume building on all the major interstates, 77, 85, the 485 loop. We're going to get to some of that. Let's start with some drive times around the Crown. If you're coming in, the longest stretch is going to be from out west, Gaston County through Belmont on 85. That's typical. Coming out from Mooresville, a little over a half an hour. Matter of fact, let's take you to 85 North at Cox Road. Stop and go 5-10 miles an hour at most until you get through Lowell, McAdenville. It starts to get a little better through Belmont and then across the river. Let's take you up to Iredell County. Beautiful shot. NCDOT cameras here, I-77 north and south, all 6 lanes across the lake. Just gorgeous. Further down near Huntersville, stop and go traffic. Unless you're in the toll lanes, this is one of those days. If you've got a meeting or an appointment, you may want to hop in the toll lanes, spend a couple of dollars. Might be worth it so you're not having to sit in that stop and go traffic. Further down, same story. It's just slow. Trying to get under LaSalle Street, just north of Uptown. On the southeast part of the city, 45 in are really slow between Mint Hill and Matthews, between 30 and 45 miles an hour. No reports of accidents, just really sluggish. A little bit better once you get on Independence Boulevard, but it is stop and go up around the curve. So again, just don't be distracted. More and more teen drivers are out there this year than there were at the beginning of the summer. So just be respectful of them. We'll give you another update coming up around 8:30. Annie?
A looming deadline is forcing local leaders to make a final decision on what could be the most expensive transportation project in state history. Tonight, the controversial I-77 South toll lane expansion project will once again be the focus of the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization. Queen City News anchor Savannah Rudisell is live along the interstate near Uptown with a look at what comes next. Savannah?
Yeah, Annie, the group that's responsible for approval or denial, the CRTPO, they are the ones who are currently divided on whether or not this project should move forward. So tonight, they're going to have a very vital conversation to see if they can come to a consensus before next month's official vote. See, many had decided to withdraw their support from the project after many community members here in neighborhoods all around I-77 had voiced their concern to their local representatives, warning about possible displacement of historically black neighborhoods and negative environmental impacts if this highway expansion plan were to move forward. Now, in response to the CRTPO withdrawing their support, state lawmakers passed a clawback resolution requiring cities who voted against the project to repay the NCDOT for the more than $60 million in planning costs. They gave them until early October to reverse that decision. Now, a survey released earlier this month by CLT Public Relations found 51.5% of respondents in Charlotte believe the proposed expansion of I-77 South should move forward immediately. Now, more proponents, like nearby business owners, are speaking out in favor of the expansion, saying something needs to be done.
77 is a major thoroughfare for us for where our business comes from, whether it's up from South Carolina down, going into Uptown. Our guests, more importantly, our team members use that artery to come to work. We're not doing it for us. We're probably not even doing it for our kids. This is something that our grandkids and beyond will benefit. This is generational.
No, other municipalities just north of the 77 expansion, like Cornelius and Huntersville, Statesville as well, they say they're thinking long-term just beyond this project. As if the board votes to not reverse it and continue to stay in opposition, the region is also liable to miss out on several $100 million in future projects and state grants from NCDOT. Now, the board meets this evening to start their conversation tonight at 6. Reporting live in Charlotte, Savannah Rudisell, Queen City News.
All right, Savannah, thank you. With the midterm elections now less than 3 months away, voters are giving both parties new clues about what they want to see in November. Tuesday night's primaries delivered some surprises. News Nation Washington correspondent Rashad Hudson joins us live now to explain the very latest. Rashad, good morning.
Hey, Julian, good morning to you. Primary voters last night sent a message to both parties. Democrats are still debating how far left to go with their party, while Republicans are testing out the power of President Trump's endorsement. One of the biggest surprises came in Florida. State Representative Angie Nixon, a Democratic socialist, upset Alex Vindman for the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate. Nixon's victory gives progressives another win and highlights the debate inside the Democratic Party over which direction gives it the best chance in November. Nixon will face off with incumbent Republican U.S. Senator Ashley Moody. And in the Florida governor's race, Republican Congressman Byron Donalds, who had President Trump's support, will face former Republican Congressman David Jolly, who won the Democratic nomination.
Tonight, we are one united Republican Party.
Jolly, who left the Republican Party and later became a Democrat, is running as a more moderate alternative.
We are celebrating the return of a resiliency, the renewal of a hope.
There was also an incumbent shocker. Florida Republican Congressman Corey Mills lost his primary. And in Alaska, Republican Senator Dan Sullivan and former Democratic Congresswoman Mary Patola both advanced under the state's top 4 system. And now that the primary season is winding down, now the focus turns to November, where we're expected to see some pretty big matchups. Julian?
And again, Rashad Hudson live at our nation's capital for us. Rashad, thank you. Well, early voting for the South Carolina Senate Republican primary runoff has begun, or starts this morning in about 30 minutes. Polls open at 8:30 and they'll run until 5 p.m. We open each day until Friday. Voters must have a valid photo ID in order to cast a ballot.
A new poll from Elon University shows Democrats and Republicans in North Carolina might have more in common than they thought. The poll asked 800 North Carolinians about their political identity and which social group they aligned themselves with. More than 3/4 of the respondents answered working class. The answer was present across all party lines.
We're in a moment where most people
are pointing out that economic issues are critical for their vote in November. We're seeing inflation and cost of living in particular showing up as the top issue, both in North Carolina and around the country.
The survey also found where North Carolinians differ the most. MAGA was by far the most polarizing identity, followed by Democratic socialism. New details this morning on the death of actress Hayden Panettiere. The Greenville County coroner says first responders found her unresponsive inside her South Carolina apartment. When first responders arrived, they say they administered advanced cardiac life support measures, but they were unsuccessful. According to the incident report, her ex-boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, and his brother, Zach Hickerson, were both at the scene. It also states that Brian showed police a bag containing medications the actress was taking. The names of those medications and any comments associated with them were redacted from the report. The coroner's office completed an autopsy on Monday, and officials also say they didn't find any signs of physical trauma. The cause and manner of death remain unclear, pending further investigation and additional tests. We have heard from fans who say her death was shocking.
Definitely a sobering thought. I mean, that happens, to family members and friends, but then celebrities too, there's just like another person right down the street. It's crazy.
And prayers for her family, definitely. I mean, that's such a hard thing to go through, and we'll be thinking about them.
Panettiere appeared in her very first TV role at the age of 4. She is known for her roles in Heroes, Nashville, Ice Princess, and Bring It On, All or Nothing.
Alec Murdaugh's defense team is asking a judge to move his upcoming double murder retrial to Richland County. Attorneys say Columbia offers a large jury pool and a better chance of finding impartial jurors. They also argue the location would reduce costs by eliminating the need for many attorneys and witnesses to stay in hotels. A judge has already ordered the retrial to be moved out of Colleton County, but has not yet decided where that April 2027 trial will be held. The NTSB says speeding, cannabis impairment, and limited driving experience all likely caused a deadly crash on 485 last year. 6 people died, including a teen driver and 5 family members in another vehicle. In a final report released Tuesday, officials say that the teen driver, who was likely impaired by cannabis, quickly approached another car in the middle lane and then swerved into the right lane, colliding with a van. The 2 vehicles then hit a large truck that officials say was illegally parked for a non-emergency reason. The driver of the truck and 1 person in that van are the only survivors of that crash. 8:11, let's get over to Brandon.
Yeah, just tracking that heat, Andy. Heat continues for now. Look at the midweek check-in. Also, just looking at those late week storm chances, which will kind of help with our cool down for the weekend. We'll still have some storm chances at timeout and maybe some interruptions for Friday Night Football for high school programs this week. We'll talk about that coming up next. You're watching Queen City News Now. It's the most iron, most local news in Charlotte. Live look from Independence Boulevard as we get a break.
Welcome back. More key witnesses for the defense set to take the stand today in the murder trial of Lindsay Clancy. She is the Massachusetts woman accused of killing her 3 children and who claims she suffered postpartum psychosis, leading her to commit the crime. A doctor who reviewed her medical file took the stand at Tuesday, saying she had symptoms of postpartum illness listed in her records.
Now, prosecutors argue that Clancy knew what she was doing, claiming the symptoms appeared 5 months after childbirth, which they say is too late to be postpartum illness.
Joining us again, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes. A lot of people watching this. It does sound like a Netflix, law kind of case episode. So a lot what's on the line here is this postpartum psychosis. Does that eliminate criminal responsibility? When you look at this as a whole, before we dig in deeper, does that eliminate criminal responsibility?
Part of that does. So that helps the overall process. So not alone. I'll say that. So I often say here that prosecutors and defense attorneys are painting in their building. And in this trial, I think that defense is attempting to build a bridge built with insomnia, depression, suicidal thoughts, postpartum depression, psychosis, I should say. And you're hoping, and it's your goal, that if you can get the jury to follow you on that bridge all the way to either a not guilty or some type of not having the capacity to understand what was happening at the time of the deaths. If you can get them to that point, then you can be successful. So, yeah, I just think it's one portion of the bridge that defense is attempting to paint, but not by itself. I don't think that's going to be enough, and that's why you have a number of other testimonies. That's why you have a number of other folks. Yesterday's testimony from the mother-in-law, I think, was crucial to helping to build that bridge, and it's a layer to get there, not all by itself, not at all.
The prosecution has had 2 weeks worth of witnesses to their part, and the burden of proof is on them, right? They have to prove that she planned this methodically, carried it out, and knew what she was doing. In kind of looking at this, do you think that they've met that?
I don't think they have, but I mean, I'd say where we're at right now in this case, the judge at the very minimum think they carried their burden enough for defense now to be able to have to take over the portion of their case. Remember, prosecutors have their portion, they begin, and then once they rest, defense will then ask for a directed verdict. At some point, they did that, and the judge denied that request. And so the judge who's listening to this testimony every day thought at the very minimum, not that it's guilt or innocent, but that they've carried the burden, they haven't failed, they've stated enough where now this should be something that's sent to the jury. So now defense takes over. Yes, they still don't even have any burden to carry, but they're going to attempt to tell their story. Do I think prosecution has done enough to discredit and tear down the bridge that they're attempting to build, that bridge that's built with depression and all these other listed symptoms? I'm not sure. It doesn't sound like they have, but this is a very emotional case. When you give the jury the instruction, asking those jurors to be able to look past the emotional component of it and then follow what the law prescribes, it's going to be the key portion of this. Even though I can tell you as a judge, you have to listen to what the law says, you're still going to see these images of these 3 kids in the basement. You're going to hear the testimony of folks that were affected. And are you going to be able to say, look, the harm that was done is outweighed and shifted from her not being aware what was occurring? That is what the legal standard will be. Will they be able to follow the legal standard? I'm not sure.
Khalif, I think when you have trials like this, very much like the Alec Murdaugh, everybody all of a sudden has spent 3 years in law school. They have their law degree. They're all giving their legal opinion on it. As far as what Annie was saying with the prosecution, can you take people through, because this isn't the only chance they're going to have to make their case, because they'll have a chance in rebuttal. So what would you be looking, if you were inside of the meeting rooms with the state, how would you be game planning what you need to do in order to make the case?
Well, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I will come back out to rebut was like even the testimony here from yesterday from Susan Clancy. You're saying she was begging for help, right? How often, how long, when did that process start? Well, they talked about it yesterday, 2 weeks. Okay, so during that time, what type of help was she getting? A lot of that is from the lawsuits that are going after these mental health professionals that were prescribing her multiple drugs, right? But then was there time even within there for her to have regained some type of mental awareness and understanding of what was occurring? I think that's going to be crucial. So I would go step by step when I'm asking questions on cross so I can lay the foundation when I bring any type of rebuttal. And a lot of that rebuttal will be by experts. It will be saying that, look, Susan said she had these things that were occurring. Does this point to some type of psychosis, or is this something less? Remember, if it's not a psychosis, some mental illness or disease, then it won't even be able to be used as a defense for them to tear down this case anyway. So I think there are a number of things that you can listen to the witnesses testify and then hit them back again with some type of expert that will rebut what they're saying.
All right. Well, we have another day of witnesses taking the stand, so Khalif, we'll see how this pans out. Not even close to being over yet. So thank you.
All right, the heat not even close to being over either. Unfortunately, another couple days where it feels like we are in the oven. 12 days in a row now it's been this hot?
12 days in a row we've had 90 degrees or higher, Jason. That includes today's high temperature, which will be 94 degrees. So we've been feeling the heat now really for about a couple of weeks. And I think we'll at least get to 14, maybe 15 days before we get our cool down. Now, this isn't the longest 90-degree stretch we've ever seen in Charlotte. 1993, we had 33 days, rather, of 90 degrees or higher in a row. Now, just last year in 2025, we had a stretch from late July through August where we had 26 days of 90 degrees or higher. So we've had longer streaks, and luckily this streak should be broken by Saturday. If we happen to get 90 on Saturday, there are some other opportunities to fall back into the 80s like early next week. So I don't think we'll get into the historic streaks, but still mid-90s today, upper 90s tomorrow, then back into the lower 90s by Friday before getting into the 80s on Saturday. High pressure is well in control of our region, but we've got two frontal boundaries. See how it's right in between it. We should stay dry at least today. I'm not expecting any rain chances. Plenty of sunshine, dry conditions. And then as we get out the door tomorrow, there will be a few more clouds, especially north of I-40. Possibly a few showers working into the mountains tomorrow morning. And then by tomorrow afternoon, evening, we're dry, plenty of sunshine, calm weather. And then as we go into Thursday night, that's when we start getting unsettled again with more showers and storms moving in. It's a slow-moving frontal boundary that will be bringing rounds of showers and storms through the day on Friday, starting Friday morning and continuing through Friday evening as well, which is why a lot of high school football programs have moved their varsity football games from Friday night to Thursday night just to avoid the heavy thunderstorms. A few more scattered storms can't be ruled out for Saturday. Looks like the lesser day for rain out of the two between Friday and Saturday. A half an inch to an inch of rain, possibility, up to an inch southeast of I-85. That's where the best chance for some localized flash flooding could be, southeast of I-85. More isolated, though, as you're getting farther north. Temperatures today, mid-80s up in the mountains, if not low 80s. So we've got 94 today in Charlotte, upper 90s farther southeast towards Chesterfield County, and also as you're getting down towards Richmond County. Ragweed pollen in the medium range is starting to pick up here as we close out August and get closer to September. Also doing some bold too. 7-day forecast, 94 today, 97 on Thursday, and then we're cooling back down to the 90s and the upper 80s and low 90s by the end of the week with those showers and storms increasing. You're watching Queen City News Now. It's the most honored, most local news in Charlotte. We'll be right back.
It is 8:25. Welcome back. Beautiful shot looking straight down 6th Avenue in New York City this morning. You can see Radio City Music Hall off to the right. As we are looking at markets this morning, still over an hour before the opening bell this morning, kind of a mixed bag. The Dow, S&P up in the green. NASDAQ is down this morning, so a little mixed as we start this Wednesday. Markets ended yesterday completely down. The Dow is down about 116 points. NASDAQ, S&P also in the red. We will take a look at the opening bell and the numbers, how the day starts with trading, coming up around 9:30. Nike stock has hit a new 12-year low. Shares are reportedly down 78% from an all-time high in 2021. Officially, the company is facing rising competition and tariffs. Unofficially, many traders blame Nike for, quote, going woke. Critics point to Nike pulling the Betsy Ross flag shoe after concerns were brought up from Colin Kaepernick. The shoe company also facing criticism after transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney promoted Nike women's athletic apparel. Nike has lost $200 billion in market value. As Americans continue to be obsessed with weight loss medication, protein continues to be king. A new study from Jack Links shows protein continues to dominate food trends, with 53% saying protein-focused snacks have made it easier to choose what to buy. At the same time, Americans are scrutinizing what goes into their food. 66% say the fewer ingredients a snack has, the more likely they are to trust it. There you have it. I would eat my laptop if it had protein sprinkled on it. Just saying, I'm a sucker for protein. All right, you're watching Queen City News. Grab some coffee, throw a little protein in your creamer. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
.30, welcome back into Queen City News Now. I'm Amy Satowski.
I'm Julian Sador.
I'm Jason Harper. Nice to have you with us this half hour. Happy Wednesday to you. We've got meteorologist Brandon Lawson saying things A little bit cooler. I mean, I know technically on the scale it's cooler. Will we feel a difference at all outside?
Maybe a little bit, just because of a slight drop in humidity. So you might notice a little bit of a difference. I mean, there's
anything I can get.
Yeah, real. You are not kidding there. I mean, you talk about just what was like a sauna on Monday.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, I mean, especially if you were in the shade, you had a little bit of a breeze.
There was a breeze in there if you were in the shade and the breeze, then it was like a touch cooler.
It was a pee-wee breeze.
Right, and if a cloud would block out the sun for a little bit, you know. But, you know, there's a chance for those little things today to maybe help out a little bit. But overall, it is still going to be a toasty day today. As you take a live look from West Charlotte, our tower camera here in West Charlotte, our Queen City News studio showing uptown, and a little bit of a hazy view out there this morning. So if you're going to be out and about again, you might notice that's the heat and haze really building in. Now, again, there will be a few clouds in the morning, but during the afternoon, it's really just those fair weather cumulus clouds that we're going to be seeing popping up throughout the day that will block out the sun every once in a while. But overall, it's sunny and hot. Still humid today. Temperatures in the mid-90s, some lower 90s, especially as you get up towards the I-40 corridor today. One good thing about today is that there's no heat advisories in effect. That is some really good news. Heat advisories have been in effect really for parts of the Queen City News viewing area ever since late last week. Now we don't have any heat advisories for today. Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to be uncomfortable out there. It's still going to be a day where you want to drink water and take breaks. You'll still have those feels like temperatures up in the upper 90s and near 100 degrees in and southeast of Charlotte. Towards Sherall, you'll probably see those 100-degree feels like temperatures even more, especially in Chesterfield County and Richmond County. Temperatures this morning more so in the 60s in the mountains. I've got more so of the low to mid 70s down towards the Charlotte Metro. 72 in Hickory, 71 in Statesville, 74 in Charlotte. Radar is dry for now, and it'll stay dry through the day today. We've got dry high pressure in control, always called Happy the High because it produces the happier weather around here, and it will be producing plenty of sunshine and dry conditions. It's also just going to be producing a lot of hot weather today, too, as we bake in the sun. We'll be dry through the day today. Futurecast tries to pop up storms, but much like yesterday, it popped up storms. We didn't see anything. We stayed dry through the day, but rain chances are increasing towards the end of the week. Notice on Friday, I've got a 60% chance of rain now, and even into Saturday, 30% chance of showers and storms. So as those rain chances increase for the end of the week, we'll have to also increase the threat for maybe some flash flooding. But one thing that won't be increasing are temperatures decreasing for the weekend. We'll talk about just how cool we get, and we'll time out the storms for Friday. And if you need to maybe move that Friday night football game to Thursday, details on that coming up in just a bit. Jason?
All right, thank you, Brandon. Appreciate that. 8:30 half hour. Boy, we are in the thick of it, Brandon. I mean, it is just, sun is shining all over the place, which is the good news. Bad news, look at this. More than a dozen incidents. Not all of these, as a matter of fact, most of these are not even accidents. It's just sheer volume. Really slowing down, and as we keep saying, day by day, more and more schools are back in session. Some of the big ones are going to top it off next week between Union County and then CMS on Tuesday. So just take a deep breath, get prepared for what is out and about. A lot of teen drivers are out there right now. All right, let's first get up our drive times from the west side of the city. The longest stretch coming down 77 from the Lake Norman area this morning. You're almost up to half an hour. Let's take you out west quickly, 85 at Cox Road. 10, 15 miles an hour at most. It gets better once you get through Belmont across the river. Coming down 77 from Lake Norman's on the right-hand side there, working its way from Iredell into Mecklenburg County. Gorgeous shot across the water there on Lake Norman. Just a lot of traffic. Biggest issue is 45 Inner at John Street. Between Independence Boulevard and John Street near Matthews, we've got a lane blocked, backed all the way up to the Mint Hill part of the southeast corner. So just be aware of that. Independence Boulevard, pretty good until you get a little closer. Things start to slow down the closer you get to Uptown, but overall, not too bad. Again, don't be distracted by the cell phone. Put it away till you get to where you're going. We'll wrap up all of our traffic reports at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. Julian?
All right, thank you, Jason. The controversial I-77 toll lane project will be back on the table tonight as the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization plans to meet. What remains to be seen is if they'll hold their ground. The group pulled their support of the toll lane project back in May after leaders cited problems with the project, including the efficiency of toll lanes on improving traffic conditions and the impacts on historically black neighborhoods. However, last month, North Carolina lawmakers passed a provision in the budget that would require municipal governments to pay back the $60 million for the I-77 designs if they choose not to go forward. Because of that, other cities like Concord have already decided to reverse path and back the project. The CRTPO is expected to vote next month on whether to reverse their stance on the plan. The board meeting tonight begins at 6 in Uptown.
Charlotte-Mecklenburg school students, return to class next Tuesday. The first day of school comes shortly after the district's superintendent was reinstated following a 2-month investigation. Dr. Crystal Hill spoke publicly Tuesday for the first time since the school board voted to bring her back. But as Queen City News anchor Caroline Boyer tells us, many questions remain about what prompted her suspension in the first place.
At a back-to-school media briefing Tuesday, the focus on a new year quickly shifted to a call for transparency from district officials. They've yet to release any details about Superintendent Dr. Crystal Hill's 8-week suspension.
I want to acknowledge the events of the past several weeks. To ignore it or to pretend that it didn't happen would not be authentic, and that's simply not who I am.
That's how the superintendent started off her first public appearance following her reinstatement.
However, I want to point out that today is not the time or the place to have that discussion.
District leaders tried to turn discussion toward wins for the upcoming school year. They touted a decrease in the total number of criminal acts on campuses during the past few years, a lower than 2% teacher vacancy rate, and new guidelines to limit technology use in the classroom, particularly for grades K through 2.
But our focus is really on looking at making sure that technology use at all levels, certainly first is developmentally appropriate, but that it is purposeful.
Despite school officials instructing reporters to only ask about back-to-school preps.
You can certainly email media and then we can get back to you, but we're not answering any questions.
The conversation kept going back to Dr. Hill's leave.
I feel very confident about my leadership and the leadership of our team.
A few school board members were in the room for the press conference. One of them, Cynthia Stone, didn't answer questions directly about the investigation, but did say this.
If, for example, the CEO of Kroger had an experience like this, do you think the grocery stores would close or open? They'd open, of course, and that's what we're going to do.
Board Chair Stephanie Sneed left before taking any questions. On Hill's way out, she did emphasize this won't be the last time we discuss the weeks-long probe.
There will be an opportunity for more information to be shared sooner rather than later.
It's unclear when we'll learn more details about this investigation. All we know is we were promised they're coming soon. The first day of school for students is Tuesday, August 25th. In Charlotte, Caroline Boyer, Queen City News.
President Trump is coming to South Carolina later this week to go to bat for one of his supporters. The president will be holding a rally in Myrtle Beach this Friday to campaign for Senator Darlene Graham ahead of next Tuesday's GOP primary runoff. Early voting begins today in that race between Graham and York County Congressman Ralph Norman. The two faced off in a debate last night. Norman was asked about growing concerns about data centers and incentives for their development, while some say Graham stumbled when she was asked a question about Taiwan and the South China Sea.
I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not on national security. I'm not that informed on national security, but I do support the military. My brother was in the Air Force for 33 years, so I will do everything I can to support the military. My dad was in the Army. I'm not a polished politician up here. National security is not my thing, not my area of expertise, but I do support the military.
Let them pay their own way, and if it has a return on investment for them, but it's got to have a return on investment for the community, and they've had a free ride. So I will call attention to it, and I will we'll do whatever it takes to educate the public on what's going on.
Polls for early voting are now open this morning and will close at 5 o'clock this evening.
Late night food truck operators say a permanent midnight shutdown in Uptown could cost them big. Owners say up until June, they usually stayed open until 3 or 4 a.m. Now they're hoping Uptown leaders and Charlotte-Mecklenburg police will reconsider the closing time. The move to limit their hours is aimed at curbing crime after the bars close. But as Queen City News reporter Shakira Speaks found out, the late hours is where all the business actually is.
We're street business, we're street food. We serve the crowds. So the crowds usually come out to the seat around 10, 11 o'clock. That is when the business starts.
But for the last 2 months, these halal food truck managers say they've been forced to close at midnight, 3 to 4 hours earlier than normal. Manager Weiss Mayer says it's hurt their business and the community as they serve the late night gig economy like DoorDash and Uber drivers.
Our food truck is the only late food that they can find, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. on the weekends. And also people who come here for late night for the bars and clubs, they also rely on our food.
Mayor says they received an email in June from Charlotte Center City Partners requesting the trucks temporarily stop serving customers at midnight. He says they complied. They later received another email saying the new hours would be permanent. Managers were told it was because of, quote, recent public safety concerns.
It has affected about more than 40% of our revenue.
An online petition opposing the move has over 1,200 signatures on change.org and even more physical signatures. And people on social media are trying to get the restrictions loosened.
Where exactly are y'all expecting them to get food?
To me, it's bigger than just the food. It's bigger than our nightlife. It is about the fact that there is a broader community that exists at night that needs their help, that needs to stop by and talk to them, get food from them, and sometimes just needs their eyes on them.
Kate Glaze has posted on TikTok to support the petition. She says she doesn't believe the truck should be closed because of late night violence. Glaze hopes the city, law enforcement, and the food truck owners can find common ground around the business hours.
You know, how does that affect them? How does it affect the broader community? And if you're doing it with this business, where does it stop?
Again, that was Shakira Speaks reporting. City Councilmember Joy Mayo says Uptown is regulated by Charlotte City Center Partners, an economic and community development organization, not the city. Officials with the group declined to comment, referring us to CMPD. We still have not heard back from police, but leaders say they are considering an Uptown street vendor program modeled after the one used in Noda.
Time is 8:41. Coming up after the break, Panthers making a trip down to Florida. Not for summer vacation. They are working, prepping to face off against the Jaguars in the Sunshine State. We got to look at how they are getting ready. You're watching Queen City News on this Wednesday. We thank you for that. We will be right back.
Welcome back. A Panthers legend is set to receive another honor after getting his gold jacket.
Meanwhile, the current Cardiac Cats are braving the heat down in Duval County as they get ready for joint practices with the Jaguars.
Carolina Sports Live's Joey Ellis has those stories and more in your morning sports.
For the Carolina Panthers, Monday was the only practice, at least for this week, that us here in Charlotte could actually see this team. They went through a brief walkthrough on Tuesday before getting to Jacksonville later that day. And now later this morning, they're gearing up for a 9:30 a.m. joint practice with the Jacksonville Jaguars in Florida with certainly tons of position battles that are still certainly yet to be decided. It'll be nice, though, for this team just to practice against somebody that's other than the ones that have been wearing the same crest as you. And for the team, it'll certainly be business as usual. But as we all know, these joint practices certainly show us that tempers can boil over rather easily.
Just what I've been seeing every day in practice here, the physicality to show up, our style of football, that's been the standard. The competition will elevate some, getting new fresh faces to go against, different schemes, different style of fronts, different style of offenses, those types of things. But just seeing our guys execute and play with our type of physicality.
Getting out there versus another live defense, and you haven't gone against them, you get to spend a little time studying them pre-practice and everything, but to be able to go out there and get those live reps is just as important as any of those preseason games.
All right, so as far as the storylines, here's what we're going to be watching for later this morning in Duval. First things first, the starting offense has to find some kind of rhythm after the poor showing that we saw on the road in Buffalo on Saturday. We also want to see if either Trevin Wallace or Claudin Sherlis can create separation in what's been a very even day-by-day position battle there at linebacker, too. And the interior offensive line has struggled a bit this preseason without Rob Hunt and then Damian Lewis seeing snaps at both guard positions. The depth behind them certainly has to improve. And this is also a chance today for players on the bubble to continue making a case for roster spots. And, of course, joint practice is always known for some scuffles. We'd like to see those kept at a minimum, though, with more of the focus on the task at hand. We've talked about the arrival of Darren Waller certainly extensively, but now really the two questions remain. Is he here to stay in Charlotte? And if so, is it at somebody else's expense? Well, Waller seems to be more than in shape than he was in Vegas and certainly well rested after his one-year retirement. He excels, though, as a pass catcher, especially in the red zone. But with a banged-up offensive line, can he bring some extra blocking power in? Is certainly needed for Bryce Young as well. Certainly something the Panthers are welcome with open arms.
It's exciting. He's a vet. He knows he's been in the league. I don't even know how many years now. So he knows football, and I'm sure he's going to share a lot more knowledge with us.
I mean, I think there's already guys that have those skills in the room right now. I think everybody in the room has some unique skills that they bring to the table, and I feel like I do as well. And I think together we'll create a group that really brings a lot of value to the offense this season.
Versatility, you can play him like a tight end, you can play him like a receiver. He's huge. I mean, just, standing with him out there, he's all of 6'6.5". He's lean, he can run, all those things. It's a unique element, that he brings to whatever offense he's been a part of. And so the goal is to just throw him into that room, challenge that room, and see which guys want to elevate and create that role for Bryce.
All right, we see the Panthers run 2, even 3 tight end sets, so there's certainly going to be a bunch of guessing when it comes to how Waller now will be used. Here's the current tight end depth chart according to the team. Tommy Tremble, Jatavian Sanders are your 1-2 punch at the top of the line. Up there for now, though. Mitchell Evans, he got a shake in games a ton near the end of last season and in his rookie season. James Mitchell's been showing up this preseason as well. Felipe Franks is more of a special teams juice guy, despite the former Florida quarterback turned tight end now being listed as one. Waller certainly will have to earn his way up on the ladder here. It's not showed as well. Caden Prescorn, he's already been on 5 different practice squads since entering the NFL just last season. And another piece of news that we saw on Tuesday, another name's getting immortalized at Bank of America Stadium. The Panthers will induct Luke Kuechly into its Ring of Excellence during its home game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on October 25th. Luke, who was just enshrined in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, will have his name and number join those of Wesley Walls, Steve Smith Sr., Julius Peppers, Jordan Gross, and Sam Mills. So certainly a well-deserved honor, a long overdue honor for 59. And we got a lot more for the Carolina Panthers, that is. That's the news of the day today in Jacksonville for a 9:30 joint practice. We'll hear from the team. We'll show you some videos, what went down there in Duval. And we got a lot more to talk about tonight at 11 o'clock on Carolina Sports Live.
All right, Joey, thank you very much. A former Wimbledon finalist is now being suspended from his sport after reportedly testing positive for cocaine. Nick Kyrgios posted about the case on social media earlier this morning. He said the recent drug test was a huge mistake and took full responsibility for it, saying that he felt, quote, helpless and alone as injuries derailed his career. The 31-year-old Australian was beaten in the 2022 Wimbledon final, but is now ranked 919 after a series of injuries.
Well, the Crown is getting right back to work after their 3-1 win on Saturday against Columbus. They're up north in Toronto tonight as their long string of matches continue. Unfortunately, they'll do so without the help of Harry Toffolo, who's out with a hamstring injury that will keep him sidelined until the end of the month. Tonight's match begins at 7:30. All right, let's get over to meteorologist Brandon Lawson. As we get further on the day, we're at 73 degrees, but Brandon, we're going to continue heating up in places that include Gastonia.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The Gas House is going to be heating up into the mid-90s, just like Charlotte today. Already plenty of sun over downtown Gastonia. A lot of the green trees out there, too. And again, temperatures going to be heating up nicely as we go through the day today. 94 today in Charlotte, 97 tomorrow. And then as we get towards the end of the week, we'll be tracking temperatures in the upper 80s. Yes, 80s on Saturday. So we're finally going to cool things off after what has been a hot stretch the last couple of weeks. High pressure's in control, but we do have a front to our north, also a front to our south. Both of these will kind of work together to produce some showers and storms for later in the week. We'll get there, but first let's talk about the next couple of days. We're dry, plenty of sunshine today, hot and humid, just like we saw yesterday. And then up north towards Boone, Jefferson, Hickory, Morganton tomorrow morning, clouds increase, and there could be even a stray shower or two up in the high country and foothills tomorrow morning. Then we're kind of dry and sunny for the afternoon. Tomorrow looks hotter again, upper 90s in and around Charlotte, mid 80s for the mountains. And then here's a look at future casts as you're out the door, maybe tomorrow evening, tomorrow night. A few showers and storms starting to build in, and then we gradually grow and settled into our Friday. Here's the boundary, slow moving. It just hangs with us, brings rounds of showers and storms through the day on Friday, all the way into Friday afternoon and evening. Even into Friday night and Saturday morning, there could be a few isolated showers and storms around. Saturday looks more like your typical hit or miss shower and storm day, while Friday brings more of the numerous shower and thunderstorm coverage. So we're looking at about a half an inch to an inch of rain. This is through Saturday and Sunday, so I do think Friday this is going to be the bulk of the rain, a half an inch to an inch, but there could be some isolated higher amounts if you get some downpours on Saturday as well. 1 inch of rain towards Wageboro and Rockingham. That's where the highest threat will be for flooding on Friday. This won't be a widespread flood threat, but there could be some flash flooding issues as we go into Friday afternoon and Friday night, just because if you get downpours over and over again, that could produce that flash flood threat. So heads up Friday night for some of the high school football programs starting at football in the Carolinas this week. Storms are likely Friday night. Temperatures in the 70s. We're already seeing some high school football programs move their varsity games to Thursday night and their JV games to Wednesday night tonight, just to make up for the stormy conditions on Friday night. Tropical outlook looking tame. No concerns from the Atlantic Basin. We'll be in the mid 90s today, upper 90s tomorrow, and then upper 80s, low 90s as we head through the weekend and into early next week. Just got to get through a stormy Friday. You're watching Queen City News Now, the most iron, the most local news in Charlotte. We'll be right back.
Gotta love this stuff right here. A Southern California surf dog is going viral after pulling off a pretty impressive move in the water. Check this out.
Whoa, you got it? I got it. How did you get that?
Holy cow. All right, 5-month-old Sweet was surfing in Malibu when her board collided with another surfer's board. But instead of falling, the pup just simply leaped from one board to the other with ease. Sweet is the offspring of Sugar, the surfing dog, a 5-time world dog surfing champion from Huntington Beach. I love how Sweet was just like, I got it.
Okay.
It didn't even phase
Nice,
the dog
stranger.
at all.
Look, really, boop, boop.
Right there. Well, I mean, that's what we do as surfers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you're crowded,
Is
when
that
you're
what
crowded.
they teach you
Well,
in surf school?
you know, I mean, I grew up in Atlanta. I've lived in landlocked states my whole life, and so as surfboarders, surfers.
There you go.
You hop to the next one.
Obviously.
So, I'm not surprised.
Easy enough.
He comes from a long line of talented water dogs.
Surfing dogs.
Yes, I mean when your pop's a world champion, 5-time world champion.
5-time world
Sugar,
Come on.
and then Sweet.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right.
It's a cute dog.
How would you continue on if he ended up having brothers or sisters? What other names would you come up with? Sugar's the dad. You got Sweet.
Salty.
Salty.
Maybe if it's a girl. If you have a girl.
It's really smart.
Well, that's what I'd go with anyway.
It's really
Why it
smart
gotta be a
to call it
girl,
like
though?
You said it. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe sucrose if it looks smart.
Sucrose.
Sucrose.
Oh, okay.
No?
Come here, Sucrose.
Yeah, no.
that's kind of-
Suki.
Suki.
Suki for short.
Suki.
I like that. I like Suki.
Okay.
All right, we met in the middle there.
We got it all planned out for this
There we
whole
go.
dog family. Congrats, Sweet. All right, we're going to take a break. Another hour coming your way.
Queen City News starts now.
It is almost 9 o'clock. Welcome into our final hour, the Power Hour of Queen City News on this Wednesday. I'm Jason Harper.
I'm Annie Satowski.
I'm Julian Sador.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Lawson for Ted Fate this morning. We're tracking the heat continuing today, but at least we're getting closer and closer to the cool down for later this week.
Thank goodness.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I think we're all looking forward to that. Temperatures back in the 80s again. It's something we have not experienced since August 7th, so we've been on a 12-day stretch, including today, of 90 degrees or higher.
Some lower humidity too, right?
Yeah, lower humidity,
better.
and that will be following that cool down for the week. As we go into early next week, we're going to be tracking the lower humidity, which is going to make it feel delightful, especially some of the mornings next week. Live look from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Yeah, I bet if you sat inside the racetrack today, it would be a steamy one, especially with all the dark pavement there at America's home for racing. Today's high temperatures, 83 in Boone, 83 Jefferson, 91 Hickory. I'll take you down to 94 in Charlotte today, 97 in Sherrall and Rockingham, so another toaster of a day. Now, I will say heat risk today is pretty low unless you're not being careful. Again, there's no heat advisories for today. First time we've been able to say that since late last week. So no heat advisories for any county within the Queen City News viewing area. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to feel comfortable, delightful. We'll be able to just be outdoors with no water and not taking breaks. You still want to make sure you're taking those heat safety measures. It'll feel more like the upper 90s and near 100 towards Charlotte today. So the humidity is still going to be an impact. So if you're counting down the days to cooler weather, let's count down the days to some of the holidays as well as we do that. Labor Day, 19 days away. The average temperature on Labor Day, around 85 degrees. Halloween, 73 days away, 68 degrees, the average temperature then. Then as we get to Hanukkah and Christmas, we start talking about temperatures averaging in the 50s. So it's just a matter of where we're going, right? We're going to be getting gradually cooler from here. We're just not quite there yet. Obviously, 73 days away from Halloween, but also 73 days away from those average temperatures being in the upper 50s, low 60s. Here's a look at your temperatures. We're talking about 77 in Laketon and Gastonia, 75 Charlotte, 67 in Boone. And again, temperatures are going to warm up very quickly today. Likely those mid-90s by the afternoon towards Charlotte, low 80s in the mountains. Radar is dry this morning, and when you look at the rain chances over the day, we've got a 0% chance of rain for all of today. Not expecting any storms. And again, when you're tracking heat and humidity, you usually think we'll see pop-up storms, but we have a dry high pressure overhead, and that's essentially causing a lot of sinking air and kind of drying the air out at times to limit those storm chances from developing. So staying hot for now. Again, I say for now because we will be cooling off. A cool down is in sight. We'll talk about that cool down coming up in just a little bit and the storm chances that come with it. Jason, how are we looking for that last traffic update?
Well, I'd like to say things have calmed down since we're technically on the backside of rush hour, but Brandon, that's not the case. Things continue to just people literally have their foot on the gas, and that's what we're seeing here. Still have about a dozen incidents scattered around the Queen City. It's interesting how 6:30, everything is kind of on the west side of the city, and then as we go through the morning, everything shifts to the center, to the southeast part of the city. That's just how it happens every single day. We're seeing that this morning. Let's start with some drive times out west and out north. Things are definitely improving, unless you're coming down from Lake Norman area up in Iredell County. Still around 30 minutes to come down I-77. Out on 85, first time since 6:30 this morning that was seeing traffic move at speed limit pace on 85 near Cox Road. And that improves all the way till you get to the Queen City. Coming down from the Lake Norman area, we just showed you about 30 minutes from Mooresville trying to get down to the Queen City. This is the stretch across Lake Norman, looking pretty good. Have a new accident, 77 southbound, the right lane blocked at LaSalle Street. Can't necessarily see it from this camera angle, but you can see the slow traffic trying to work its way into the Queen City. A double whammy on the southeast part of the city. 45 enter, an accident earlier at John Street, backed up beyond the Matthews Independence exit. Now there's another one, 45 enter at the new Weddington exit. So that's going to slow you down a little bit. Here's a look at Independence this morning. Just don't forget, with schools back in session, a lot of new teen drivers out and about. Be respectful with your neighbors out on the road. Debate over the controversial I-77 South expansion project is heating up in Uptown.
Regional leaders are set to discuss if they'll allow toll lane proposals to move forward or pay the state back millions for the project's design cost.
Queen City News anchor Savannah Russell is live along the interstate ahead of today's pivotal conversation. Savannah, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. We know that state lawmakers' deadline for municipalities to either support the project or pay back a portion of the more than $60 million they say NCDOT has already spent planning for these toll lanes is fast approaching. So tonight, representatives from areas across the region, from different towns and different counties, are going to gather to talk a little bit about which way their town boards are leaning. And as it stands now, the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization is still divided. We have seen resolutions come from certain municipalities like Cornelius, Statesville, and Huntersville Monroe, all saying they would like to switch their vote from May and now approve adding lanes from I-77 South from Uptown to the state line. They say they can't afford to pay the state's clawback or potentially miss out on future grants for other road projects. Some also say they believe the toll lanes are the right solution to ease congestion on that 11-mile stretch. But authorities in Davidson and Mecklenburg County have indicated they'll remain in opposition, citing concerns about displacement of historically black neighborhoods and environmental impacts. Charlotte City Council member Ed Driggs has consistently supported the project for what he says is the potential economic growth. He says tonight's discussion will be the time to hash out a compromise in the toll lane's design.
I am hopeful, personally, that we can address some of the concerns that have been raised by the community to the point where my colleagues think, okay, now I can reinstate my support.
Board members will meet this evening at 6. They'll issue their new votes in their meeting next month. Reporting live in Charlotte, Savannah Rudisell, Queen City News.
After more than half a year going unsolved, investigators say they finally know who broke into the home of the late NASCAR legend Greg Biffle just weeks after he and his family were killed in a tragic plane crash in Statesville. The suspect was found in Georgia and is now facing charges. Queen City News reporter Jen Cardone shares how investigators connected the suspect to the crime.
It was a ring that Terrell Williams was found with when he was arrested in Georgia that officers were able to connect to memorabilia of Greg Biffle. Sheriff Darren Campbell says the Cobb County Sheriff's Office called his office July 29th and they were able to connect the dots. Looking at surveillance footage we got from police earlier this year, detectives say they executed about 24 search warrants and cell phone data. They say Williams's digital footprint places him at the Biffle residence the night of the January crime, but due to low light and infrared surveillance footage, they could not conclusively identify Williams from the video alone. The sheriff says Williams monitored news headlines and social media to find out when homeowners were likely away. We're told he used an RF detector to locate security cameras and wireless surveillance equipment while moving through the Biffle residence. Officials say the day after the burglary, he used stolen cash from the Biffles to buy a vehicle that they were able to connect using flock camera technology.
I'm just glad that we're able to get a little bit of relief, I think is a good way to put it, and to get some of the valuable things back to their family.
Sheriff Campbell says Williams is connected to other high-profile crimes, including a 2019 Charlotte break-in. In Georgia, he's connected to another home break-in where the victim was an owner of a Fortune 500 company. Investigators say Williams also had a stolen firearm that belonged to an officer from Western North Carolina who was in the hospital at the time. We're told Williams uses 6 to 7 aliases to stay under the radar. The sheriff says they're not even close to wrapping up this investigation and are looking into other suspects and charges connected to this case. Reporting in Statesville, Jen Cardone, Queen City News.
All right, we want to bring in our chief legal analyst, Khalif Feroz. Khalif, when you're dealing with somebody who is allegedly connected to so many different crimes, how does the pecking order even start for people to say, okay, we want him first and then another county? Because it seems like there's several jurisdictions that have claims to this guy.
You just got to wait your turn. I mean, I've had multiple defendants that have a charge in one county and then another county wants to bring them there. And so that was most of the time going to be the DA's office and the sheriff's department figuring out and coordinating how do you get a person from county to county or from state to state. If he has pending charges in Georgia, there would be an extradition order placed from North Carolina. You don't want to just go down there and grab him in North Carolina, then you'll have to bring him back to Georgia. So typically you'd wait for something like that to resolve itself, unless it's some type of higher profile case. And then, I mean, they'll ultimately would say, okay, we'll step back, allow that case to be resolved. But most of the time, if he's in that county, he has pending charges, they'll resolve it there and then allow that person to get to the other county.
Khalif, with such strong digital evidence that we just heard, flock cameras, surveillance footage, cell phone data, even the suspect basically saying, I'm laying my cards on the table. Here's what I did. I used RF technology. How do you, as you mentioned in our earlier topic, if you're the defense and you're painting a picture, like the picture's already been made, what are you doing? Are you trying to cover things up or distract, or what do you do?
North Carolina General Statute 14-51A is the burglary statute for our state. He's charged with first-degree burglary. So you have a couple things. It says it breaks and enters a dwelling or house with intent to commit a felony or larceny within, where someone is actually occupying part of the dwelling or sleeping apartment at the time. And so I would attack it from multiple components. First of all, was someone actually occupying the dwelling, that last component? If no one's actually occupying a dwelling, it's not a first degree. At the very minimum, it'll be second degree. So that's where I would attack. The other component is that breaks and enters. A number of the earlier reports from law enforcement say they couldn't tell if he actually went inside the location. So if we don't have a break and enter, you can't charge him. Now, if someone else was involved with this and he was on that property, on that location, his cell phone is ringing and pinging at that location, you got flock camera that's putting him on the property. But if you don't have him actually physically going into the property, you can get him with accomplice liability, but then you need more than mere presence. So then I'd argue it's just mere presence. What would defeat that argument obviously would be him having the ring when he's arrested in another location, but that could be some possession of property, of stolen property, not a breaking and entering. So there's a multiple opportunities to attack the prosecution in this case right here. First, I'm getting it down to second, and then we'd work our way from there.
Yeah.
Of course, if this person did in fact break in and they did all of these things, is there an increased penalty or charge for the planning that goes into that, right? Of watching news reports, making sure that people were out of town, as opposed to if you just happen to come upon a house and you break into it?
Yeah, I mean, in North Carolina, we have aggravating factors, just like we have mitigating factors, something that would take it out of the presumptive range when you're sentencing a person, because we have structural sentencing in our state. But I don't think that those factors would factor in for an aggravating. What I would tell you is that would help more determining, was he participating actively as an accomplice if he didn't physically go in. I planned this, I got the radars, you know, I figured